Welcome back, Commander. I am Korak, your host for the evening, and this is Kane's Wrath. We are back in the Chrono Clash 2, plus a little bit of extra bonuses near the end. We are on the map, Twilight Highlands. Starting us off over on the... Oh, that was the wrong button. Already off to a great start. Starting us off in the top right-hand corner of the map, wearing the cyan robe, sporting the GDI gloves. Give it up for Benno. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, rocking the yellow, sporting the black hand. Give it up for Dimitri. Both fighters ready. Begin. Once again, the Chrono Clash 2 is presented by Chronosphere, the app and site monitoring platform that sees all and sometimes wishes it didn't. Getting another new player for me. I have seen plenty of games from Dimitri, but I haven't seen too many from Benno. Hopefully I'm saying the name right. It's B-E-N-O. And actually, if you give me 1 second, I forgot something. There we go. I don't have that fancy scoreboard like Cyber does. Sorry about that. We are still only in the scouting phase, so we didn't miss anything real important. If anyone notices any screen tearing, please let me know. I haven't got a chance to go through Aquatext messages. He said he noticed a good chunk of screen tearing from me, so maybe that's something to do with lossless. I haven't had a chance to sit down and read through it. I had to prep for this and actually get ready for my son's birthday tomorrow. Nobody has elected to get any pit bulls or really anything out just quite yet. Things are a little slow at the start. Got a couple of APCs out. Rocket squads, at least in 2 of them. Third, waiting for it in the background. Hopefully, Dimitri's got something in the bag and ready for this. He does have a couple of units. He does have a couple of bike and buggies out and ready to go. Those will be decent into the APCs, but I think if the APC rocket squads, or the rocket squads inside the APCs, get a couple of really good shots off, it won't matter. But these APCs could be in danger. They're going for the Tiberium Spike, going for the easy target. Is Dimitri going to turn on them and take them out? Yes, it looks like he's possibly going to go for the bait. No, I'm really not sure what he's doing with his units over here. Benno's really split up all over the map. His APCs are kind of everywhere. This is the best time for Dimitri to start taking pot shots at these APCs, but it looks like maybe he's going to ignore them entirely and go for the base. Watchtower is out here for the defense, and they're going to primarily focus their damage on that, giving Benno time to group up. APCs moving their way in, but they're not concave. They do get a good mine drop off and do a good chunk of damage to some of these bikes and taking out a Raider buggy and a bike on their way out. No one really came out on head over there, but they're going to try back and forward. Both Tiberium spikes are still up for each player. Minor harassment. No one's really been able to get a harvester just quite yet. Dimitri's been able to group his forces just a little bit better. He did miss a golden opportunity with how spread out those APCs were for Benno. That would have been the best time to pick them off, but maybe APCs are a little bit harder to kill than I am realizing. Pitbulls in the north, so a couple more fast-moving units. Harvester going down inside the first natural expansion of his opponent. Second Harvester getting taken down. Third Harvester getting taken down. Absolutely no response from Benno. Only a Watchtower and slow-moving APCs. Dimitri's even stopping to take out a power plant on his way out. 3 Harvesters down and almost no losses for Dimitri. That has got to sting. Pitbulls moving into a line of sight of danger. 3 Pitbulls versus all of his bike and buggy are not going to come out on head as Benno sends more troops into the meat grinder and gets taken out. Dimitri is now uncontested inside of the main base of Benno, starting to take on these Harvesters. There's a Watchtower here for the defense. APCs moving their way in, but they are too little too late. The damage is already being dealt, and Dimitri is just getting these gains almost for free. Pitbull is out, but it's not going to be able to slow this assault as Dimitri just takes his time inside of Benno's bases, just destroying Harvester after Harvester. One Raider Brigade getting caught in a rather unfortunate position, but it doesn't matter too much, because even if he loses that and a handful more, Dimitri is still on top. He hasn't been touched over on his side, and he's not been sitting idly by either. He's building up a good chunk of infantry for Black Hand, so he's going to have that to pad out his stats and maybe some Scorpions. No, it looks like he's going infantry and just a couple of bike and buggy. Pitbulls are here a little too late for the party, but they're here nonetheless. No transition yet from Benno just quite yet. He does have a Shatter out on the front line, probably anticipating some of that man spam, but maybe not anticipating how much is already on the map. APC's moving to the north, maybe to go for one of these kind of annoying targets over here. Yeah, it looks like they just here to kill the Cabal Capacitor squads. Nothing really major just quite yet. A couple of scouts for Dimitri beginning to move their way into his opponent's space, trying to see what maybe he could see as far as transitions or a couple other things are concerned. Benno going for the Tiberian Spike in the south. Black Hands squad's just not fast enough. Black Hands infantry just not fast enough to catch up with this Pitbull. One Harvester does get scouted by the Pitbulls, but it's not going to matter because Benno's not going to capitalize on that advantage that he has as he runs his troops directly into these rocket squads, getting decimated. Every single one of those Pitbulls is going to be really useful, and now 2 of them are down. Benno moving into the center of the map, followed shortly behind Dimitri. Actually, Dimitri might have been a little bit further ahead. Dimitri's bike and buggy in the south. No one really electing to grab the Tiberium just quite yet. Definitely not in the south. Hammerheads, which means we do have a airfield out over on Benno's side. APCs caught in a really bad position. Hammerheads moving in for reinforcements. Shatterers and APCs should be enough to start taking out this, but they're going to have a hard time dealing with that Redeemer. Hammerheads moving in with their AP ammo, but they're gonna take damage on their way out, and half of them are gonna get taken out. 2 Obelisk of Lights on the front line. I guess Dimitri didn't want anything to do with those Shatterers, and probably not a bad idea either. Take them out as soon as you can and have a little bit of defenses up and going. I'm not sure it would warrant 2 Obelisks, but they're there nonetheless. 2 more Hammerheads join the fray as they begin to pick off some of the units of Dimitri, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. They're going to have to do a lot of picking off in order to stop this assault because Dimitri is base rushing on top of Benno. Benno's going to run into a bit of trouble here. Benno had to set up his construction yard in kind of an unfortunate position. Sam Turret's out on the front line, pushing the one small advantage Benno had, which of course was those Hammerheads. There it is. He's thrown in the towel. He's called a GG as Benno has lost his first round, giving Dimitri his first round. One moment, Commanders, switching maps. Thank you for joining me on Tournament Odyssey. Starts off over in the top right-hand corner of the map, wearing the GDI, switching colors on me, plain orange. This is Benno. His opponent, still for this very moment, over in the bottom left-hand corner, rocking the black hands, playing the blue. This is Dimitri. Let me make sure I actually loaded up the right game, though, Commander. Yeah, Thanatos versus Benno. They both changed colors on me, it looks like. That's going to make things just ever so slightly confusing. I did not predict ahead. I assumed they were going to go with, hey, this is a tournament, so maybe I'm going to keep the same color. At least I played in this match set. But no, they do not want to do that. They want to make my scoreboard a liar. Slapping down lossless scaling. Should see a little bit of difference here in a moment. GDI into Black Hand once again. No one in the Chronosphere so far wanting to switch off of their currently practiced faction. Not necessarily a bad idea, but they can run into some predictable troubles. Foxhole is here. Foxhole is down for Benno, giving him a little bit of scouting potential. Doesn't look like Dimitri's going to grab any sort of scouting whatsoever, at least on his side. Nothing really yet from Pitbulls or really any little bit of armor. No one's decided to do any sell-offs of anything just quite yet, so no rushes, just players doing standard strategy. Probably too late at night to really get any viewers on my end. I think most of the Kane's Wrath community is overseas, or at least a large portion of them are overseas. And my current viewers are typically overseas as well, at least from looking at YouTube analytics. I haven't been able to look at Twitch just quite yet. Still not a whole lot going on. It's pretty different from watching the points I am in. There's another tournament going on called the IES. It's an invitational set up by Green Zero, and everyone seems to come out swinging out of the gate, so I'm just entirely used to that tempo. So this is being a little bit different for me. Makes Kane's Wrath seems a little bit slow-paced when it is played this way, but this is probably a more calculated effort. A couple of Pipples out for Benno, making their way across the map, looking for something to snack on. He, of course, has these scouts here, so he's going to be able to see a good chunk coming. Engineer actually getting spotted. That's going to be really unfortunate for Dimitri as he loses the unit. APCs and Pitbulls moving their way. APCs focusing on the Cabal Confessor Squad, or at the very least, they should. Doesn't look like we're getting a whole bunch of focus from these Pitbulls. 3 Pitbulls should be able to do a good chunk of damage, but they're still not focusing their shots. Every one of those volleys that misses or hits another target is going to be extremely important. Unfortunate. Laser Tower out on the front line, pushing out this rather paltry assault. APC going down, popping out the engineers, or sorry, popping out the rifleman squads right there at the end. Benno just not able to focus on the harvesters of Dimitri. Dimitri was probably going to suffer his first mistake there, but Benno could just not capitalize on it when he was able to get his way in there. And now that Dimitri knows that he's going to be aggressive this early on, he's got a couple of rocket squads and a few other things out and ready to go. Rifleman squad's finally being destroyed inside of Dimitri's base. Dimitri's just happy to take it slow. Couple of watchtowers already out for Benno. They're doing absolutely nothing, but maybe he expected that man spam to come his way. Probably better to have a little bit more scouts than a couple of watchtowers. You can always build another watchtower and send that scout out and know where your opponent is. So far, no real response other than watchtowers. Nope, actually, take it back. We do have 4 and 5 APCs in the background, so the man spam should be mopped up rather handily, but the bike and buggy could tip the scales. And this is a good chunk of man spam, so it could still go either way. Pitbull's moving into the old main base of Dimitri. Dimitri losing a harvester, getting taken out, but if they're not careful, they're going to lose their units here in a minute as well. Pitbulls going down as Dimitri's assault begins in the northern section of the map, taking out watchtowers, taking out APCs. Those 5 APCs are now almost gone. Couple of snipers teams out here. Watchtowers getting targeted down. APCs getting targeted down. Body block from the War Factory as the assault finally begins to slow down. It looks like the answer to man spam is definitely going to be snipers, watchtowers, and APCs. No AP ammo just quite yet, but it is baking in the oven, and Dimitri's not going to sit idly by. He's going to get a little bit of revenge, attacking the harvesters of Benno. Not able to find the purchases that he needs. He got 1 full volley of 5 attack bikes. Words are hard. 5 full volleys, or 1 full volley of 5 attack bikes. Did take it down to half HP, but were not able to finish it off. They needed to get that second volley off. But at the very least, they stopped him from harvesting, and he managed to get most of those units out, unless a couple get caught here. Yep, there we go. As soon as I say something, these players always want to make me a liar. Scouts moving in for Dimitri. Dimitri's going to see that secondary natural expansion is being expanded upon and know that he's potentially just a little bit behind. There is the scan. There is the scout by Benno. Benno sending a Shatterer off out by itself. His units are not really grouped particularly well. We do have a Predator tank out here to start dealing with maybe some of the forces over here. Shatterer's taking a couple of good shots off at these, but missing, of course. And now Dimitri is inside of Benno's base, finishing off some of those harvesters as Benno begins an assault over in the south. 1 click does take out the refinery and probably a harvester. Looks like power plant is going to be a little bit of revenge, but I'm not sure there's enough APCs, and they're definitely not gathered up here for Benno. Assault continuing for Dimitri in the north as he managed to destroy Harvester after Harvester. Benno not being anywhere near as successful as Dimitri in his assault, getting stalled and delayed everywhere he goes. He's just not able to group his forces, and he's just not able to coordinate the way he needs to. Another Harvester goes down in the north. That is the 3rd Harvester, followed by a 4th, maybe by a 5th. Dimitri trying to get out of there, saving what's left of those units. He was able to save 2 attack bikes, but that's really about it. It doesn't look like Benno was able to grab the defensive tower. I cannot speak today. Man spam has finally been whittled down over here inside of Dimitri's base, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. Dimitri actually already moved into his opponent's base. I didn't see that he made his way over to that secondary natural expansion. He's got something in the background cooking, ready to go. Premature Obelisk of Light out on the front line, but at the very least, it's going to make those units have to turn around. Benno's got to get some scouts out, so he's got to get some poking around. He needs to see what is going on in the map because he's had a couple of opportunities to get some good things off. He just hasn't had the scouting in order to capitalize on it. Now he's about to run into an Obelisk of Light, losing a couple of his forces. Dimitri faring a little bit better, making a couple of mistakes. Just sort of on the normal basis. Secondary Obelisk of Light is out, and it's going to be able to help take out the Shatterer. Almost take out 1 Obelisk of Light, and it looks like Benno has thrown in the towel, has called GG, and has given that one up. Maybe he's hoping that he'll fare better in the next game. Either way, we will get to see together, Commander. Here we are. Welcome to Toxicity. Over in the top right, playing the GDI, this is Benno. His opponent still on the left-hand side of the map, rocking the pink this time, playing black hand once again. Give it up for Dimitri. Dimitri into Benno seems to have favored Dimitri quite significantly, at least from what I can tell. Dimitri just seems a little bit more polished than Benno. Not sure how old of a player Benno is or how long he's been around, but he's not one I'm particularly familiar with, unless it's like my previous cast of the Chrono Clash, where I didn't realize that Terracotta was an alias for Fate Zero, so I mislabeled him there, but it is what it is. I think I also mislabeled Fox's game as well. It looks like that 3rd game that he didn't actually disconnect. It looked like his opponent had thrown in the towel, which I think was Wildcom. So Fox actually ended up getting 1 point at least in that series. Speaking of points, Dimitri has a 2-0 lead. This is going to be really uphill if Benno is going to turn this around. He's got to win 3 in a row because, of course, this is a best of 5 in these elimination groups. Brackets? Not sure what the proper terminology for it is. Pitbull is now inside of Dimitri's base. Dimitri hasn't been able to get out quite the number of scouts that he's been able to get out before. 1 Pitbull is going to be a pain to deal with, but 1 Raider Buggy can push out that Pitbull. Natural expansion is being developed on by both players. Both of them are already in good positions to start setting things up. Harvester hanging out by the War Factory. It looks like whatever was baking in the oven did get a little bit of a pause on it. Getting out another Harvester. It looks like Dimitri's just going to absolutely ignore this Pitbull, which I don't really blame him because it's only going to be able to do so much damage. And there it is. There's the attack bike, but 1 attack bike is not going to be enough for it. The Confessor squads could make the difference, though. That will push out the Pitbull as this poultry assault has continued. It does look like APCs, the rocket squads, are going to be the name of the game. Once again, I take it back. That one's actually got an engineer in it, probably going for the defensive tower. He does have a foxhole here protecting it. Considering his opponent is Black Hand, is the Nod faction, those defensive towers do really well into them. There it is. Engineer is out. If he's able to capitalize it on time, he's going to get a little bit of vision and that defensive tower. I don't get to see this too often. Usually people don't pop in the bunkers and shoot at each other, but they're going to do it anyways. That's some DMZ tactics there. Natural expansion has developed quite nicely. We at least have 1 refinery, 3 looks like harvesters for Dimitri. A little bit slower on the take for Benno, economic-wise. And it looks like the bike and buggy is out here in full effect, building up 2 war factories. Yep, 2 war factories out and ready to go, 1 at each base, pumping out those bike and buggies, getting them ready for this engagement. Benno needs to group up his units, otherwise he's going to end up in a rather unfortunate position and lose a couple of units where he could potentially win a fight instead. Dimitri selling off a tower in order to get his hands on a scout that I'm assuming he's going to send out somewhere, wherever it went. Nobody has elected to be particularly aggressive. No harvesters have really been taken out. Benno's defenses have shored up just a little bit. A couple of more pit bulls out here that is going to help it, but he's going to need to be able to mass produce those. He's only got the 1 war factory right now, while his opponent's got 2 producing all of these units. They can definitely go for quantity over quality for sure. But now Benno knows what he's going to be up against. Black Hand Squad's going to move their way in to kill the defensive tower. Defensive tower is going to do next to no damage to the Black Hand Squads as they target down that tower to free up some movement for their units. APCs and pit bulls on a patrol pattern. It looks like a vast number of bike and buggy here for Dimitri, and still no skirmish despite all of this. He definitely has the number advantage, but he hasn't been able to get a little bit of scouting. Might actually be able to get a little bit of engagement, but no, actually the concave of the pit bulls does scare off Dimitri, as still no one is really wanting to take the bait. No one's wanting to take any real risk. We are getting a small little assault over here by the APCs with a little bit of AP ammo and a couple of rocket squads inside of them, but they're going to get pushed out nonetheless, and now they're going to get sent into the meat grinder and destroyed almost for free. There are 2 mine drops, but I don't think it matters because they can just turn around and absolutely ignore that area. Benno cannot afford taking these losses. Benno cannot afford to take these units and trade whatsoever. He needs to save up. He needs to get ready for a base defense at this point. I think he's significantly behind on the economic front, or at least decently behind on the economic front, but he's definitely behind on how many units are already on the map. However you want to quantify that. There are a couple of reinforcements that is going to help. Benno is already moving over to his secondary natural expansion, followed shortly behind Dimitri. Dimitri got a couple of hands of nods and a couple of rocket squads out and ready to go. Probably going to join an assault here in the center. Only a handful of pit bulls. Pit bulls do not want to run into that mess. I would not be sending them that far forward. Does look like we have tip core rockets. 1 pit bull does go down. Another one gets sent to its doom. A little bit of a misclick there. I'm not sure quite yet, but at the very least, they were able to get 1 bike. Definitely not worth it. Benno really needs to group his forces and just have a couple of scouts out here and there. That would save him a lot of time. If he can do these assaults inside of his base and force Dimitri into his base, he can capitalize on that defender's advantage and get a good concave off. Shatter is now picking a fight with the infantry over there as the bike and buggy moving through the north. Shatter taking a couple of shots at the bike and buggy in the north, but the bike and buggy are completely ignoring it and moving around to the northern section of the map to regroup actually with Purifiers. It looks like Purifiers are going to be the transition here for Dimitri. APC going down, and it does look like we're going to get an actual assault over here, I should say. Man spam sort of just being left to their devices and being taken out. Not a massively costly mistake, and I think Dimitri comes out ahead ever so slightly because you want those units to absorb very much of their shots and to weaken your opponent while you have the bike and buggy packing the actual punch, or more importantly, the Purifier. There is the decoy army. Not sure what happened. Not sure why it's not decoying those units. Either way, it doesn't seem like it has worked. Dimitri backing off just a little bit. Shatterer had a really great lineup, but it didn't matter because it was destroyed before it was able to get those shots off. Bike and buggy moving into the secondary natural expansion, destroying, I think, the only harvester and picking on these pit bulls. These pit bulls are going to be here for the defense, but they're not really focusing their fire. They're hitting the raider buggies, which is not what they want to go for, as pit bull after pit bull does get taken down, followed up soon by a harvester engagement in the north. Looks like it did go it did go Benno's way, at least in the terms of killing that man spam. All these Purifiers are still up. Probably a couple of these are part of the decoy army. Purifiers are concaved and moved up in a line, taking down the units of their opponent. More Purifiers are joining the fray as the bike and buggy for Dimitri moves into Benno's base. These Purifiers have plenty of time, and they're holding down the fort, which is what they need to do. And Benno is losing units over inside his base. He's losing infrastructure. And if he's not careful, he's going to lose this game. Purifiers moving their way forward, at least 3 of them taking out what last little bitty hope Benno had, I believe, for this. Benno keeping 3 Harvesters in reserve for some reason, maybe worried about this bike and buggy. Bike and buggy, at the very least, is preventing anything from making it down here. Dimitri focusing his attention, focusing his brain cells on these Purifiers. Hammerhead moving forward, destroying the corpse of one of the Purifiers, but that is going to be an extremely, extremely minor victory. Bike and buggy did finally get mopped up by those Predator tanks. Does look like we have a war factory out on the front line, and for some reason a command post, but I guess there was a base there at one point until those units moved in. T3 is out. That was the Redeemer in the background. I don't know if you could hear it selling off of the War Factory, and Benno has got to be in danger. He's got to be hurting for resources. He's definitely hurting for units. I'm not sure what he has in order to take this. Maybe he expects the Hammerheads to be able to kill these Purifiers. I guess if they're left alone long enough, they will take them out. The AP ammo is here. Does look like another Harvester is going to go down. Purifiers moving their way into the secondary natural expansion of their opponent. Sonic Emitter is out here, but there's all these Harvesters just absolutely ready for the crush. Sonic Emitter is taking a couple of really good shots off at the Purifier, as one of them is, nope, it's still alive, and the Sonic Emitter switches targets, killing absolutely nothing. Hammerheads moving their way in, but it's too little too late, as the construction yard, refinery, and Harvesters are getting taken out slowly but surely. Construction yard might make it through, but at what cost? There it is down. Reclamator hub did come out just in time, so that probably did give a little bit of a lifeline to his opponent, but he's got to sell off a lot of everything that he has, and actually he has absolutely nothing, throwing in the towel, giving the last win to Dimitri, bringing Dimitri to a 3-0 lead. Dimitri will progress through the Chrono Strike, and his opponent Benno will have to wait for, I'm guessing they're calling it something like the second chance. I don't know what the actual term for it is, but somewhere near the end, if everyone finishes their games quickly enough, a couple players can request to be put back in the tournament. Welcome back, Commander. I am Korak, your host for the evening, and this is Kane's Wrath on the map Arabian Oasis. We are back in the Chrono Clash 2 with a little bit of more information here soon to follow. Starting us off on the bottom right-hand corner of the map, wearing the green robes, sporting the marked of Kane gloves. This is Llamas. His opponent for the moment in the top left-hand corner of the map, rocking the cyan, playing the black hand. This is Panic. The Chrono Clash 2 is brought to you by Chronosphere, monitoring apps and sites so your team can stop guessing and start blaming. Thank you ever so much for joining me on the Chrono Clash 2. I'm going to be putting these videos on YouTube, hopefully to come out Monday with all of the content that is coming our way. Llamas into Panic. I think this should be a fairly even match, although I was told that Panic is an old pro, and I don't know how much Llamas has practice leading up to this event, so I think it'll really boil down to how practiced each player is, because I really haven't seen Panic at all unless he's playing on aliases, and I've seen only a tiny amount of Llamas, so I mean it still could go either way, but I also don't know how much of a skilled player Panic was when he was actively playing back in the day. First set of bikes are out. We've got 4, not quite 5, which means they would need just a little bit extra on the volley front. However, this is a good little early rush coming their way. Couple of Awakened squads getting the EMP off on those Shredder turrets, but wasting a couple of the rockets where they didn't need to. They're going to move into his base over here, and Panic might be in a little bit of trouble. Panic actually has a bit of a defense. He's got his own bikes here pushing out his opponent's bike. Shredder turret is here to deal more damage. Panic was ready for it. Panic was planned for it. As soon as he saw those Awakened, he had a strategy in mind, and most importantly, he had already prepped his way for it. Attack Bike's taking a couple more shots at the Awakened squad. Panic pulling off a really, really great defense into Lamos. Lamos not able to really get anything off. It looks like Arabian Oasis is a little bit of a smaller map here, starting off over here, moving into the first natural expansion over here with actually an EMP control center for each player. It does look like Lamos hasn't grabbed his, but Panic has immediately grabbed his EMP control center, which could make a big difference and can tip the scale in the bike and buggy or even the Scorpion phase. Not sure if things will get to the Avatar and Redeemer phase. I think these players are going to favor these fast moving units and these hard-hitting movement units, but we'll get to see here. Does look like Panic is moving in for a little bit of a revenge on Lamos, but a little bit more accurate, but he's not able to focus his shots where he needs to. He's sort of just leaving his units over here to just sort of take damage as they come. I think he forgot about them for whatever reasons, as they're just not able to focus on anything, and they're just sort of left there for the meat grinder. That's definitely going to be positive for Lamos. Lamos getting the kill on those attack bikes, and those units are going to make a difference, especially in this early sector of the game, in this early area of the game. And especially into not quite a mirror match, but similar factions, especially with the bike and buggy. We'll get to see more of the differences between each other as the game boils down, but in this early phase, they're basically the same thing as we get a good assault. Good EMP. No, only taking down, it looks like 2 of the deals, but it doesn't matter because it looks like Panic has the majority of the forces exactly where he needs it. Maybe that tipped the scales just a little bit in his favor. Lamos maybe be a little bit cocky because he was able to destroy a couple of those bikes early on. Looks like 6 bikes are left. That means they can get 2 good volleys off and destroy 1 harvester, as Panic is now left free to roam inside of his opponent's base. Lamos is in trouble, sending a couple of bikes there for the defense, but they're not ready for the concave, and it does look like Panic is watching them taking it down just as quickly as they pop their way out. Only 2 or 3 bikes do remain. I don't think they're going to be able to get a harvester down. They're just still not focusing. Panic doing a good job in prepping for his opponent, but not doing as good when he goes in on his assault. Of course, once again, those things are easy to say from the casting chair and harder to emulate inside of the game. It does look like Panic is the first to begin to establish his natural expansion, actually moving on the complete opposite side of that natural expansion, sort of prepping himself for the secondary. Raider Buggy's taking out the scouts of Panic. Does look like Panic is going to be the first one to grab a little bit of loot Tiberium here in the center to hopefully make up for some of the losses that he made there. For Scorpion Tank there, probably for the defense, maybe expecting something from Lamos here soon. Either way, Lamos does see the Scorpion Tanks out and ready to go. Scorpion Tank looks like it's going to be reinforced by a couple of these bikes moving their way into the center of the map, making sure they have that control. Lamos establishing his natural expansion, really not too far behind Panic, so economic-wise, they're going to be pretty decent. Although I think Panic is a little bit down on the resources when it comes to what's already out on the field as far as units. Bikes moving their way in, taking a couple of shots off at one of the auto-pathing Raider buggies, getting destroyed. Lamos moving around the other side of the map, moving maybe to the old main base. It does look like Panic is going to see that with at least one of his bikes as he begins to group things up and move around in the north. They need to turn around here soon if they're going to bump into Lamos. Lamos electing to grab one of Panic's bikes, giving him just a little bit more time to prep. Now he's got his units out on the front line. They are ready to go. He does have the concave. He does have the defender's vantage, and that one little bike did provide him just a little bit of time to gather his forces. Panic definitely showing that he was definitely an old pro at one point. He's very meticulous. He's very methodical in the way he does all of this. Scorpion Tanks are out for Lamos. Lamos is going to take over the center of the map. Going to grab that control away from his opponent. Lamos still looks like he's done with his attack bikes and has moved in squarely to Scorpion Tanks. Not a bad idea. You got to get that transition going. Operation Center out on the front line on that secondary natural expansion. Panic moving his way in on his opponent, taking out one of the harvesters, but now he's in danger because he's got to deal with the lion's share of the forces of Lamos, but I'm not sure he matters. The focus is here, and he's going to be able to take out plenty of these units, as it looks like Lamos has lost this assault despite having defender's advantage, despite being set up prior to the Scorpion Tanks here for the defense. One harvester still down. Panic is definitely on top of that. Lamos moving his tanks into the northern section of the map. Not sure they were able to get really too much at all. Another Scorpion Tank getting taken down. 2 Scorpion Tanks going down. Third one there to replace it, but it's sure to fall here in a minute. There he goes. Third Scorpion Tank going down. Lamos is losing so many units and more expensive units than Panic is here. Another Harvester goes down, so plenty of Bike and Buggy destroyed, plenty of Scorpion Tanks, and the Assault's actually not over as Panic continues and keeps up the pressure, moving Scorpion Tanks in the north, getting ready for a Concave, getting ready for an assault on these Scorpion Tanks, isolating one of them over on the left-hand side. Shredder Turret is going to pop its way down. Massive, massive EMP, followed by another massive EMP by Panic, as Panic is absolutely eviscerating the forces of Lamos. Lamos is in absolute trouble. All of these tanks are in danger, and more reinforcements begin to join the fray. Panic definitely showing that he was one of these old pros. One click is on its way out. He may not be as quite as practiced, but he is enough to deal with Lamos, at least in this first round. Pressure is being mounted and not being let up whatsoever. EMP out off on the refinery, soaking up some of the damage, but I'm not sure it's going to matter because Scorpion tanks are still here. Nothing to deal with quite yet with these Tiberium troopers, but it doesn't matter. Panic tries to go in for the crush, but Lamos is already thrown in the towel. That definitely escalated significantly more quickly than I had expected. Noav says old but gold. I'm guessing in reference to Panic. He's definitely worming his way into my heart. That was definitely a good strategy, a good match for him into Lamos. Lamos is going to have to step things up if he's going to pull one off on Panic. Panic looks like he needs a couple more games to probably warm up, but he's still not doing bad despite maybe not being as practiced as he could have been or as practiced as he has been in the past. Moving on to the next map, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but I think this is Atacama Road. Over in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, still playing the green, moving to the nod, this is Lamas. His opponent, not wanting to keep it the exact same color, has switched over to yellow and has switched over to GDI. Give it up for Panic. Definitely a map I can't pronounce and a map I don't get to see too often. I think the only time I've really seen this particular map is when I watched through Cybert's content. I don't know if it's just not popular, or maybe if it just Kane's Wrath goes through like phases, or if I'm just not lucky enough to see it. I saw a lot of Tiki Turmoil back in the day, but not really this map. I'm not even sure if this map has been in the original pool, or if this is one of the player-made maps, because I know a lot of the community has pushed out some really good maps that end up being favorites of the community to play on. Either way, it's definitely a beautiful map to look at. I'm a big fan of all of the elevations, all of the different changes. I think it leaves us plenty of opportunities to get some craziness done here. Is a little bit of a mirror on each side, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's trying to keep things a little bit balanced. 2 Tiberium spikes per player off on each side. It's getting a little bit of actually we got a little bit of water for once. I don't get to see that too often in the these particular games. GDI not up to much other than producing a couple of APCs, but looks like rocket squads and an engineer. 2 rockets, 1 rifleman squads, and an engineer. Don't know what his plan is. I don't know exactly what he's going for, but Lamas is going to spot it with a Raider buggy, seeing all those APCs coming his way, which means he's going to have time to prep for it. Getting a couple of rocket squads or a couple of attack bikes could deal with it, especially if you just do bike and buggy. That might not be a bad combo into this. Or just produce a couple of Scorpion tanks now that you know that you're going to be on the fence. And that looks like what Lamas is going to elect to go for, is he's going to grab these Scorpion tanks. Nobody's moved into their first natural expansion just quite yet. APC's making their way over into Lamas' base. Lamas putting down a actually rather quite well-placed Shredder Turret, putting the hub behind where it needs to be. Shredder Turret's going to absorb a good chunk of this damage. Hand of Nod on the front line. Scorpion tanks are going to be plenty to push all of this out, but Panic might be focusing on more of the buildings than that. 1 APC should get taken down. The micro is just not quite there to save it or to save the units inside. Either way, it does look like he was able to get a little bit of harassment off on his opponent and save most of his units. Oh, there was an APC inside of APC. I was like, there were 3 there at one point. Militant squads moving their way forward, getting a little bit of scouting out, making sure that Lamos can expand into his first natural expansion, which is rather protected. I think the path, the most logical path for these players to go is to grab that one, and then make their way over there, which leads them plenty of room here to fight for this blue Tiberium field. And the way it's set up, I hesitate to call it a field, maybe a field in quotation marks. Lamas getting a little bit of scouting off here on Panic. with his Raider buggy. Panic not carrying too much, but that is definitely going to be useful for Lamos. Nothing really sneaky is going to come from GDI, but knowing when they transition is going to be really important. And luckily for Panic, his opponent didn't see the transition into those Predator tanks. No AP ammo or anything like that just quite yet that I've seen. Does look like Panic has placed his MCV in sort of a more advanced position, maybe prepping for control over here and control over here. I do think that's actually a really interesting spot for his MCV. Lamos not following suit. Maybe Panic knows something that Lamos doesn't, and frankly, probably I don't. Either way, I think that is a really good position, at least based off of all the control you can have and where you can place those towers. Couple of man spam here for looks like Lamos. Get a couple of rocket squads and militant squads. Black Hands making their way over here, taking out a few of the units and maybe one of the APCs of Panic, but Panic not really carrying. Panic not paying attention to that really too much at all. Looks like they were just sent there to get a little bit of scouting off, and indeed they did get that. You got to keep an eye on these Nod players because they're going to try to do something sneaky if they think they can get away with it. Plenty of Predator tanks out on the front line, making their way down to the center of the map, trying to get that control, maybe trying to secure that blue Tiberium, get those advantages. It does look like Panic is very task-oriented, very, very critical on, I need to move my units here in order to secure this location, or in order to get this objective, this research. APC is beginning to engage a couple of the man spam of their opponent. If they're not careful, they will get caught in an unfortunate position. Pitbull is going to back its way out. One APC might go down in this exchange. No, it looks like Lamos does not want to commit to the assault. Speaking of assaults, over here on the right-hand side of the map, plenty of Predator tanks making their way into Lamos's base, and I think the majority of Lamos's forces are over here. He does have a couple of Scorpion tanks. Not sure if they saw them just quite yet, but this could turn into Lamos's favor rather quickly. Hopefully, maybe this is where he's able to turn the table on Panic. Maybe this is where he's able to get his gains here. He definitely has his definitive advantage. He's on the War Factory. Predator tanks are going to take it out. Fortunately here for Lamos is not set up in a good position, not set up in a good concave, and Panic is going to punish him for him going for that War Factory, destroying the production, maybe having to back his way out. Nope, committing to the assault. Laser turret on the front line. More and more units begin to join the fray, but the damage might already be done. Losing that War Factory is definitely going to be costly for Lamos, especially if only 2 Predator tanks get taken down for it. Panic doing a very, very good job at just nitpicking, just dipping his toe in his opponent's base and getting the kills where he can. And most importantly, he's been able to transition really quickly and really nicely. He's already got those shatter turrets, or he's already got those shatterers out to deal with the man spam of his opponent, because it looks like we're going pretty heavily into the man spam, which is not a bad idea if you're worried about Predator tanks. Looks like we've also got a couple of reinforcements on their way, as well as a few hammerheads with AP ammo inside of them. No, not a crazy amount of APCs just quite yet. Looks like that's 4, maybe 5 on the field. Nothing really inside them, but they are going to begin their assault in earnest. Lamos has not scouted this out whatsoever, so he's not going to have time to prep for it. He's not going to have time to set up a concave, as actually it looks like Panic is doing an assault on 2 different fronts. He's attacking on the left-hand side, but the important attack is going to be over here on the right-hand side. Lamos is preoccupied with dealing with those pit bulls, which are not going to be the primary threat. The primary threat is definitely going to be these Shatterers and these Predator tanks, which might even have railgun ammo in the background. Man spam is moving their way across the map. Hammerheads intercepting in order to let the assault continue, and the construction yard is being targeted down. Lamos could already be in danger. Almost go right on the front line, but it's too little, too late, as Panic gets a kill on the MCV. MCV going down. It looks like Hammerhead's moving their way in, mopping up the man spam, and Lamos might be dead here. And this might have already spelled his doom, as so far Panic is showing he's absolutely on top of it. We do have a couple of avatars which could tip the scales, but the damage might be done here for Lamos. Multitasking indeed, says Noav. I definitely agree. Those 2-pronged assaults. Does look like we got a little bit of a crane out here for Lamos. I'm not sure when he was able to pop that out, or if he had that from the very beginning, trying to get a little bit of production, but I'm not sure it's going to help him, as his assault is still uncontested over here. Looks like most of the hammerheads have been taken down. That avatar is going to be a tough nut to crack, and it's going to kill plenty of these units before it goes down. Shatter is still up. Looks like the rest of the forces of Panic have decided to focus on the infrastructure of their opponent. Good chunk of the man spam being taken down by a hammerhead as it is getting destroyed. Lamos does win this assault, or win this defense, but it's kind of a bit of a Pyrrhic victory. Avatars closing in on what's left of the armor over here by Panic, but Panic, I'm sure, has had plenty of time to begin his reinforcement phase and prep for the inevitable assault of Lamos. Hammerhead's making their way in, mopping up more of these rocket squads. Definitely going to be needed, but will it be enough to take out all of them? That's going to be the important part. That's going to be the critical part. One Hammerhead does get taken down. Lion's share of the rocket squads are destroyed. Avatars are still up. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like we have a T3. We do have a War Factory, so he does have the time to re-prepare another construction area. That might be what he's building in the background, unless it is another Avatar. No SAM turrets here for the defense because they cannot afford them. Unit is out. Hopefully an MCV. That would make a difference. There's the MCV. Hopefully followed soon by a couple of SAM turrets because they're going to need them. Lamos is doing something that I like to see a lot of these players do. When things get expensive and when your back is against the wall, there's no reason not to spam man spam. Not that there's not better strategies, but a couple of rocket squads can at least pad out the stats, especially when you have a couple of avatars out and ready to go. We've seen Futurama get a couple of really good wins by doing avatars with a good chunk of man spam. I think he typically does it with Black Hand, but it can work just as well with Nod, I feel. Stealth Tank is out looking for a little bit of much-needed revenge. Might actually be able to catch an MCV of Panic. That would definitely change things around, but I don't think he's going to go for it. MCV moving its way over to the secondary natural expansion, significantly behind Panic. Panic has already chewed through half of his natural expansion, and that's the nice thing about being the aggressor is you set the tempo. You make your opponent play to your drum. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about defending your base if you're inside of your opponent's base. It can turn against you with the defender's advantage, but Panic has done a very good job of not allowing that to happen. Zone Troopers onto the front line, Mammoth Tanks onto the front line, a couple of reinforcements, probably a couple of snipers, not a bad idea, knowing that the man spam is probably going to be prevalent here. Disruption Tower out on the front line. Hammerheads moving their way through the walls. Looks like the map got a little bit of clipping right there. Either way, it looks like the assault is going to begin in earnest. Does look like over in the background, we got a couple of stealth tanks moving in on the remainder of Panic's base, but I'm not sure he cares too much. One sonic emitter was enough in order to push those out. Avatars moving their way forward, but they do not have the reinforcements there for the man spam. Man spam are kind of on their back foot, not really doing too much as the avatars begin to get targeted down and slowly but surely destroyed. Panic is in here, and he is not going anywhere anytime soon. Mammoth Tank's getting a couple of really good shots off on these avatars. Avatars still somehow staying alive. One getting taken down. Plenty of AP ammo watchtowers, and I think this is over for Lamos. There it is. He's thrown in the towel, not able to keep up with Panic in those assaults. Panic being very, very meticulous, using his force like a scalpel in order to get the kills when and where he needed, showing that he very much is one of these old pro players. Give me one moment, Commander. We'll move on to round number 3. Here we are on round number 3 on the map. Tournament Airstrip. Over on the left-hand side, still in the green, playing the Nod. This is Llamas. His opponent still, for the moment, changing his color, not wanting to make my scoreboard accurate whatsoever, which I didn't even put up. I completely forgot about. But either way, this is Panic. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, give me one moment, and I'll put up my inaccurate scoreboard because nobody wants to keep a color, and I don't want to keep making one. There we go. Supposedly, at some point, I might be able to get on my hands on one of the versions of the scoreboard that Cybert uses, which will help save me a lot of time and prevent these little, like, hiccups in between games. Either way, there's a scoreboard up with Panic's old color because he just wants to make my scoreboards a liar, and I'm too lazy to make one for each color and switch in between. So that's what we have so far, and I didn't even upgrade the score. It looks like so far we are 2-1, as in Panic has 2 kills and Lamos has 1, which I can upgrade here in the background. Wow, we don't have a crazy amount going on. Contested Tiberian Spike is going to go to Panic over here. He's got, and prepped, it looks like a pit, or not a pit bull, a foxhole there in order to take that. looks like there is only one uncontested Tiberium Spike per player, and then maybe just the one contested Tiberium Spike on Tournament Airstrip. Yep, it looks like we got blue Tiberium in the north, and that looks like the secondary natural expansion slowly growing for both players. Raider Buggy making its way across the map into Panic's base, trying to see what he is up to, which of course is not a crazy amount. It does look like he went to... Oh no! Actually, Lamos being a pest, sticking his Raider Buggy, I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but putting his Raider Buggy in front of the MCV. No, it's definitely intentional. He's trying to slow him down. I didn't even realize you could body block that. I would have figured a vehicle as big as the MCV would be able to crush it, but it did not. Lamos bought himself a good amount of time and has been able to develop his secondary natural expansion on top of Panic. I have not seen that before, but that is super, super annoying. And if I'm Panic, I'm definitely going to be seeking a little bit of revenge for that, because that is super irritating. No real forces yet for Lamos, no secondary war factory, no refinery out on the secondary natural expansion. Panic has been happy to build his forces, has wasted too much time with that Raider Buggy. That can make a difference if the game continues to go forward. First pit bull out for Panic, making its way across the map and maybe trying to get a couple of shots off on this Tiberium or control it for his opponent. Either way, it looks like most of it has been grabbed by Lamos. Predator tank moving, or not Predator tank, Pitbull moving its way in, taking a couple of pot shots off at the Harvester. Harvester, if it's not careful, might actually lose its load of Tiberium right now, which is worth at least one regular load of Tiberium. The MCV could have gone through with reverse move, right? Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't get to see that interaction too much. Despite all the games I've watched from Cybert, and despite all the games I've casted myself, I really haven't seen too much blocking of the MCV when it comes to units, especially with like Raider Buggies and whatnot. I'm pretty sure the MCV can get the crush on like infantry, but I really don't know. I feel like it definitely should be able to crush some of those smaller units. Maybe not like a tank, but like a Raider Buggy or a bike. But maybe they just want to design an animation for that. Pitbull getting a little bit of scouting off here, but it is going to be chased down and destroyed by the Scorpion tanks of Lamos. Lamos coming out strong, transitioning into Scorpion tanks as quickly as he can, maybe not wanting to run into some of the same results, but it looks like Panic is up to no good with his 2 air factories and his command post out on the front line, and out on his main base. It does look like we have 2 upgrades. We got ceramic armor, and we've got AP ammo up and ready to go. And it looks like all his opponent has is the Scorpion tanks. Panic doing a good job of baiting his opponent's forces down into that southern section. These units are going to do absolutely nothing into the Hammerheads as Panic is subverting expectation and is now uncontested inside of his opponent's base, followed up by a couple of really great timing of those Orca strikes. Plenty of Hammerheads here, and this might already spell the doom for Lamos. Lamos doesn't have anything to do with it. No SAM turrets, only a single Raider Buggy. There is one SAM turret on the front line, but Panic has wisely decided to go for the power plants, so those SAM turrets cannot respond. So much firepower here with the AP ammo, with the ceramic armor. They're just kind of a hard time dealing with this. Panic making sure his opponent doesn't keep any power plants up whatsoever as more and more reinforcements join it. Does look like his opponent's going on the assault real quick. Might as well do something with those Scorpion tanks, and he indeed is trying to do that, but I'm not sure it's going to matter, as it looks like Panic is just uncontested inside the old main base of his opponent. It does look like Lamos has harvested most of those resources, but losing this amount of units is definitely going to sting. Rocket Harbor's taking a couple of really good shots off on the Scorpion tanks, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. I think this is going to turn into at least a small amount of a base race, but however, there are still units here that cannot shoot up. And the assault is continuing, probably moving its way over here. It does look like Lamos had time to build up a couple of SAM turrets, so at least his first natural expansion, which is quite large, is going to be built up. Lamos probably buying himself a little bit of time, having to deal with less units than he would have before inside of this base over here. Hammerhead's poking around looking for a little bit of damage. While those SAM turrets are firing, they do take additional damage, so that is going to help. Raider Buggy's getting targeted down. Hammerheads being absolutely precise in their destruction, but it looks like the Raider Buggies and the shots from the SAM turrets are going to be enough to push out a good number of this ceramic armor, or not. They will eventually go down with enough shots. definitely does put pressure on him every single match, and that's how you should be playing Kane's Wrath. There's just too many options to continue with the pressure and to keep it up. It's a little bit slower with GDI, but not impossible. Steel Talons can get those flying MRTs with rocket squads in it that Master Leaf is so happy to pop on, and I don't really blame him because I think it's especially cheeky to see. And then now doing it with the Hammerheads. You can also do it with Pitbulls, but it looks like this has probably been one of the more effective rushes for the airfield that I think I've seen. Lamos was completely unprepared for it and lost an entire base for it. He has probably overcompensated, maybe not overcompensated. I think this is going to be enough SAM turrets to keep those units out, and they're definitely going to be a threat. Would be nice to see a couple of Mantises out, but I don't think he has what it takes to get those Mantises out. Somehow Lamos was able to keep his, his MCV intact. Assault maybe be able to begin here in a minute. Probably got to wait on those Predator tanks. Hopefully there's some railgun ammo. Nope, not on the Predator tanks just quite yet. There are 4 here, and it looks like the transition's going to be avatars. Great into the ground units, but the problem really is going to be these Hammerheads and dealing with these Hammerheads, especially as Zocom. Venom out for the Scout. It looks like Lamos is finally moving on to his secondary natural expansion, which is still growing slowly but surely. Panic moving his forces to the north, maybe trying to secure Blue Tiberium. Not sure why they're heading up there. Maybe they're just trying to avoid the Avatar. Contested Tiberium Spike has still been firmly in the control of Panic. Panic moving his way over to his secondary natural expansion with another MCV. Looks like it's going to be a 2 MCV push with a Marv here out on the front line. Firehawks, anticipating the Venoms coming their way, are going to take them out, but I think they're primarily there just for a bit of scouting. Lamos needs to group his forces, and he needs to scout this area down here because he's got to control this, and if he's not careful, he's going to deal with a Marv and a pretty significant push here in a minute. Looks like Lamos was going for a couple of the Predator tanks and is moving down to the south. He still has time to turn this around. It is definitely going to be uphill. He is down a little bit on tech. He is down a little bit on resources and infrastructure, but with Defender's Advantage, he could still turn it around. He's going to need some SAM turrets out on the front line because those Hammerheads are going to be absolutely devastating. 3 avatars are here as well. Would be nice to see a little bit of padding from a bit of the infantry, but I'm not sure how much it will matter as Marv moves its way into the secondary natural expansion. There's the scan looking for where his opponent is. Units moving forward, getting ready for a concave, but they need to stay near those avatars. They need to protect those avatars and get ready for this assault. They do get a little bit of scouting out. They do see the Marv. One does get taken down. One does get destroyed by a Zone Raider Hammerhead. Killing that is definitely going to be useful. Firehawks are here as well. Lamos kind of going in the back line, actually getting a couple of really good kills on the Zone Raiders, using his units to quite great effect. Marv moving its way forward. Panic might actually be in danger here if he's not careful. He has plenty of these units left, but Redeemer into Marv with a couple of the backing up of these avatars is going to be something to deal with. But I'm not sure he cares because he's going for the construction yard for his opponent. Destroying that a second time would give him 7,000. Needs more Spectres. Definitely does need more Spectres. I think that would make a bit of a difference here. Does look like we have a little bit of answer here. Venoms are moving their way forward. Construction yard does go down. Looks like we do get the Rage Generator, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter as long as Panic continues to move those forces. Avatars are sitting ducks for these Hammerheads. There is one Venom here to deal damage, but it is throwing candy corn at its opponent. There's only so much it's been able to do, and the damage has already been done. Lamos is already down 7,000 in cash just for MCVs because he's lost 2 so far, not including his entire base that he lost earlier. Looks like Lamos still not really having an answer to these Hammerheads. No SAM turrets out on the front line, no rocket squads, no Mantis tanks, nothing really to deal with him. He is producing a couple of Venoms, and he did have those Raider buggies, which were doing a decent amount of damage, but they did get taken down because it looks like the economic advantage is definitely in Panic's favor. Panic having plenty of these Zone Raiders out in red. They are actually, it looks like, no, actually they're not going to get the crush. How did they miss those units there? Are they not, are Harvesters not able to get crushes on Zone Raiders, or really just extremely unfortunate? Panic keeping up the pressure, putting the Sonic Emitter on the front line, using these Zone Raiders to pressure his opponent back into his base. Redeemer is in danger. Back armor is getting targeted. It does have a little protection, but it doesn't matter as the GG gets called and Lamos gets taken down. And I have another bot in the chat. Fantastic. I think he is restricted from actually posting, so hopefully y'all can't see that bot. Let me know if you do see the bot, and I'll try to ban it again, because that is obnoxious. 1 second, Commander. We're going to move on to the next match. That does give, for those of you who didn't know, that does give Panic a 3-0 lead into Lamos, which means Lamos is knocked out of the tournament, and Panic will proceed further into the tournament. There is a chance for Lamos to make a comeback if everybody does their games quickly enough, because there's like a, I'll just call it a redemption bracket that'll pop up at the end and have a chance to fight their way and maybe make it into the quarterfinals. I don't have a smooth wave to set up these scoreboards, so you're going to have to deal with the broken one until I get my introductions out of the way. Either way, thank you for joining me for match number 2, round 1 on the map, Tournament Highlands. Starting us off over in the top right-hand corner of the map, rocking the green, playing the, it looks like GDI. This is Chaos Set. His opponent for the moment on the bottom left-hand corner of the map in the red, playing the, it looks like Traveler 59. This is Masterleaf. Give me one quick moment, Commander. I'm going to switch things over, fix the scoreboard. This is extremely tedious. I don't know how other casters get this done accurately. There we go. Chaos Set into Masterleaf. Putting on lossless scaling, you might see a little bit of screen tearing here in a moment. Just give it one quick moment. And I forgot to mention, Tournament Highlands is sponsored by the emergency mute button, because some teammates should come with a silence feature. 2 Tiberium spikes over here for Tournament Highlands. Both pretty secure, both easy to grab and quick for them to grab. So we should get fights off a little bit sooner. If you didn't know, whenever you grab a Tiberium spike for the first time, or whenever it's grabbed first time on the map, it does replace the cost of the engineer. I don't know if that's Masterleaf exclusive, as in with his patch, or if that's traditional Kane's Wrath, because it has been a very long time since I've sat down and tried to play Kane's Wrath myself, especially Kane's Wrath Vanilla, which I played on the Xbox 360, weirdly enough. Was one of the only RTSs that was good on console next to Halo Wars. Nothing real crazy happening just quite yet from either player. Masterleaf is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. He likes his cheeky stuff. He likes to subvert expectations. It does make him a little bit inconsistent, but that inconsistency can make a difference. Does look like we got a Foundry, which is the crane for Traveler 59, so Masterleaf has bonus production while he's making his way across to his first natural expansion. Nobody's grabbed blue Tiberium just quite yet. I don't think there's enough there yet for a full load of Tiberium for a Harvester, but might be a half load. Gunwalker getting a kill on the scouts of Chaos Set. Both natural expansions being developed almost in unison with each other. Portal out on the front line. No disintegrators or anything just quite yet, but maybe get some in the background. We'll get to see here in a moment either way. Looks like we've got 5 Harvesters so far, so that's been developed quite nicely for Masterleaf. Chaos Set following just in suit, but just a little bit behind, so Masterleaf probably has a little lead on the economic front. Nothing to write home about, but definitely be something to keep note on. Does look like we're going to get Gunwalkers out for Traveler 59, maybe with a couple of maybe Disintegrators. No, actually, it's going to be Ravengers. No upgrade just quite yet from the Ravengers, but I think it is producing right there inside of the Station Changer. I missed a couple of APCs. Those could spell doom for the Ravengers. Gunwalkers are going to be able to do so much of it, especially with them having those rocket squads inside of them. Ravengers have finished their upgrade and are going to make their way across the map. Masterleaf doing a good job of keeping those APCs out and, most importantly, keeping his opponent unaware, but they might unwittingly run into the scouts as Chaos Set. Chaos Set is going to be able to see them and take a couple of good shots off on them. He does know this assault is coming, and he's got time to prepare for it, but they're still fast either way. If they're not careful, they should be able to get a couple of Harvesters. Does look like we have the transition. We have Watchtowers, but oh no, low power just as soon as they make their way up, destroying one of the Harvesters, taking out almost the refinery. That was the perfect accidental time there for Masterleaf. Masterleaf getting a really good kill there on a Harvester. APC's moving their way in. Lightning Spike is going to kill a full load of blue Tiberium for Chaos Set. That's definitely going to sting. Gunwalkers running into a bit of mines, running into a little bit of trouble as the Ravager does try to help them out, but I think the Gunwalkers were entirely there to run, intercept, to stop the forces Ravager Rush, love it. I do. I really, really enjoy seeing the Ravengers, and if we're gonna see something cheeky, it's gonna be from Master Leaf. He does like his MRT rushes and his weird stuff, especially Ravengers. Always really, really excited for it. Ravengers getting caught in an unfortunate position, but it's not going to matter as they deal a massive amount of damage to the refinery, taking out one of the harvesters and making it out. And most importantly, there's a couple here in the south. Never mind, I say that was extremely climactic. Words are hard as they run into just this wall of watchtowers. Chaos Sid not wanting a repeat of what he saw, moving his APCs, destroying the harvesters of his opponent. Master Leaf actually might be in a bit of a danger here. He doesn't have anything to deal with these APCs on the front line. There are gunwalkers, but gunwalkers aren't particularly great at killing the APCs, as the APCs just ignore it and take down a second harvester. Chaos Sid getting a little bit of revenge there on Master Leaf, and still the revenge is continuing. APCs are finally going to go down to the Gunwalkers. It did take its sweet, sweet time. And actually, for some reason, somebody's thrown in the towel or my game has crashed. I'm not sure what that is. I need to check the timing for it on the deal, but either way, somebody has lost. I'm not sure if Master Leaf maybe got enough damage off or if Master Leaf threw in the towel. I really don't know who won that. I think there might be an issue with some of these replays, maybe with the new updates, because I haven't seen a lot of bases explode unless someone quit there right at the end or disconnected. I'm not sure. Give me one moment. Let me look at some stuff in the background and maybe I can figure out who actually won that. I could have entirely missed something, I guess. I'm going to check how long the replay was supposed to be and make sure that it just didn't crash on me. Nope. Game number 5, 5 minutes and 32 seconds. I really don't know what happened there, and I don't see any notes inside the Discord about what was up with that game. Either way, I'm just going to move squarely on to the next one. Just give me one moment, Commander. Round number 2 takes place on the Rift. Over in the bottom right-hand corner in the green plane, it looks like the GDI. This is Chaos Sid. His opponent still for the moment over in the top left-hand corner of the map, switching colors over to pink, playing the Traveler 59. This is Master Leaf. Everybody wants to make my crappy scoreboards an absolute liar. I don't have a way to update the game because I honestly don't know who won that. If I had to guess, I would say Master Leaf. Maybe Master Leaf was able to get a couple of kills off because I don't think Master Leaf would throw in the towel for just losing 2 harvesters, but maybe those APCs were lodged in his base significantly longer. Master Leaf doing another little bit of a rush here with the Descents. Descents are going to run squarely into the scouts of Chaos Sid, which means Chaos Sid is not only going to have time to prepare for it, but may actually get a couple of kills on the Disintegrators. Disintegrators moving their way in, starting to focus on these units. They are going to go down slowly but surely, but they are going to take losses for it, and most importantly, Chaos Sid knows that it is coming. We also have the upgrade for the Disintegrators. I didn't realize how much smaller the Disintegrators were. They're actually kind of cute with how tiny they are compared to everything. Granted, like, you probably don't want to run into them in real life. They would get destroyed. Maybe going for a Tiberium Spike here. Does look like the Buzzard Squad getting a little bit of scouting off. Is going to go for the Garrison Structure for whatever reason. Not sure. Maybe they didn't mean to go for that. APC's out on the front line. Looks like Chaos is taking a couple of shots at it himself. Disintegrators moving their way around to the first natural expansion, which has not been developed yet by Chaos Sid. Chaos Sid happy to sit in his base so far, although if he's not careful, he could run into a little bit of danger. APC and Rifleman squads running the intercept. If the Disintegrators can outpace them, they will be in a much better spot, but it doesn't look like that is going to happen, as Chaos Sid is doing actually a pretty good job of at least keeping one set of the Disintegrators out. Master Leaf splitting up his Disintegrators, a couple going for the Tiberium Spike. Master Leaf making his opponent play to his tempo. Rifleman squads are going to take a couple of shots off at these Disintegrators. APC moving on the ones on the left, but it looks like the Disintegrators are just going to ignore the APC and focus on that Tiberium Spike. Master Leaf keeping up the pressure. Should have killed the Tiberium Spike. He did eventually go for it, so I think that was his goal. I think that's why he did that split. And I think there's only one Tiberium Spike on Tournament Rift, or sorry, Tiberium Rift, not Tournament Rift. I know every other map is called Tournament something. Does look like the Disintegrators took a couple more losses over on the right-hand side, but they are baiting out the APCs and the units of their opponent as Disintegrators move their way into Chaos Sit space. He does try to deploy, or he does try to set up his construction yard over in the first natural expansion, but Master Leaf keeps him there and keeps him from developing that natural expansion. But the same can be said over there for Master Leaf, because if you look, there's only an MCV on Master Leaf's first natural expansion, if you can see that tiny pink dot. APCs running into Disintegrators. Master Leaf is delaying his opponent, but also delaying himself at the same time. Disintegrators running into the Mind Drop of the APC. APC just barely able to make it out. Chaos Sit finally feeling confident, making his way over to his natural expansion finally. Master Leaf did not do an all-in, but he did have a couple of portals out and ready to go, and maybe 3 at one point, not sure. He is still producing these Disintegrators, maybe trying to get a more cohesive assault off on his opponent. Let's see if Master Leaf's going to give me time to hydrate in between these assaults. Give me 1 second. APCs moving in the south, Disintegrators moving in the north. Looks like Chaos Sit is finally going on the defense as Master Leaf runs his Disintegrators into the mines, losing the majority of them. Extremely, extremely unfortunate. I don't think he was paying attention whatsoever as his opponent makes his way across the map running into the Disintegrators. Disintegrators should be able to do a good amount of damage to these APCs, but APCs should be able to hurt their opponent, especially with the mine drops. APCs might be in the advantage, especially if they can continue making their opponent run into the mine drops like they have. Disintegrators are dangerous when they get close, but APCs are good at dealing with them because of that mine drop. Disintegrators uncontested inside their opponent's base, but there's only so much these guys are going to be able to do with the state that they're in. They're going for a easy target, trying to pick on one of these power plants. Does look like we get a watchtower there to take out one squad, leaving only 2 remaining. Disintegrators moving into the APCs. APCs doing what APCs do and dropping more units out of outside of them right before they die, and as well as a couple of mine drops. Last APC is going to get targeted down. Rocket Squad only has so much they can shoot at. Can only really go for the Seeker Tanks. APC does get taken down. It looks like Chaos Sit does have the micro here to keep these Rifleman squads out and ready to go. He may have lost that engagement, but he's doing every little bit of micro he can to get as much value out of his units as he possibly can. And if he can continue those assaults on Master Leaf, he's going to end up with an advantage in resources. Does look like Seeker Tanks are going to be the transition for Master Leaf. Seeker Tanks and whatever the hell this thing is. An Explorer. I think that is the outpost for Traveler 59. I do not get to see it really at all, and it is super weird looking now that I look at it, especially as it's floating its way across the map. Master Leaf staying ahead of his expansion, moving his Disintegrators and Seeker Tanks into his opponent's base. It does look like Rifleman squads are going to spot it, so Chaos Sit does have time to build a couple of watchtowers, move his APCs into range. Master Leaf may have wasted his advantage here, but he is at the very least protecting this. Yep, it looks like that is what the Explorer does. Explorer is a little bit of an outpost. A really weird looking unit, I feel, for me, at least compared to some of the other units for Traveler 59. 2 airfields out over here for Chaos Sit with a command post. No AP ammo just quite yet. Probably going to see a couple of hammerheads, maybe a couple of the forces. Those hammerheads would be good into Disintegrators, but the Seeker Tanks are pretty decent at destroying hammerheads. Right now, it looks like APCs and AP ammo. No, actually, AP ammo did finish. I guess I missed that. That's going to be really good into both the Seeker Tanks and especially into the Disintegrators. Plenty of APCs over there on the southern section of the map, maybe moving their way over to the center of the map. It looks like somebody, probably Master Leaf, has been able to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium. Master Leaf also has this slow ticking advantage, which is the Tiberium spikes that can make a difference. However, he can lose this advantage. No real concave here for the Seeker Tanks, as the Seeker Tanks do begin to take a good chunk of damage. One of them just barely managing to survive, having the smallest sliver of HP there. They might be able to catch one Harvester here full of Tiberium, which would be a good little bit of advantage here for Master Leaf. Chaos Sit trying to intercept these Seeker Tanks and doing a good job of it. AP ammo is going to do a really good job into these units, but Master Leaf seeing that the APCs are actually moving a good number of Shock Troopers that I didn't even know were on the map. The assault has begun on top of Chaos Sit's base as Chaos Sit's forces are engaged with those Disintegrators. Master Leaf doing a really good job of baiting his opponent out into the center of the map, allowing him to destroy a couple of units here and there. But if they're not careful, they're going to run into these APCs. Shock Troopers do decently well into APs or APCs, and they do begin the assault as they begin to focus their fire, destroying one APC, destroying two APCs, probably destroying a third APC. Looks like the advantage is definitely in Master Leaf's favor, but he is going to take a good chunk of losses from it as Rifleman squads get deployed out in the front line to try to save some of their damage. These Shock Troopers don't do as much damage to the infantry counterparts. But it was enough in order to destroy that. Seeker tanks here to pad out the stats. Master Leaf's assault is all but stopped. Firehawks looks like maybe getting a refinery over here and reverse moving their way out of the map. I figure what that maneuver is called for them to make their way back to the base. Either way, they did their quick bombing run, as it looks like Chaos Sid is investing quite heavily into Firehawks. Chaos Sid has not developed his secondary natural expansion, giving Master Leaf quite the lead in the economy, in my opinion. And it looks like Master Leaf has been absolutely on top of the blue Tiberium. Master Leaf trying to be cheeky, maybe going for that construction yard, but Watchtower is going to spot it, and Watchtower is going to crush it. Chaos Sid is sort of running out of time here. He needs to move into his secondary natural expansion. Firehawk's getting another kill on maybe a refinery, maybe a power plant. Definitely taking a couple of shots at that power plant of Master Leaf, but nothing really to write home about. Master Leaf has the money to waste, and he has the advantage in the economic front. Watchtowers with AP ammo are going to be enough to scare out a good chunk of these units, as it looks like Chaos Sid is in full defensive mode and producing a Marv over here in the background, maybe to absorb some of the shots from these Shock Troopers. But Shock Troopers can do pretty well into their opponent, but they might actually do even better if they can go for this Reclamator Hub. If the Reclamator Hub is destroyed before a Marv even comes out, that is going to spell some serious damage there for Chaos Sid. Chaos Sid moving his APCs and having his Watchtowers out on the front line. That Marv facility does need to go down. We get a lightning spike out on the front line here to help with this assault and continue this assault. Master Leaf, not wanting to commit fully to an assault, maybe not wanting to lose more units, and it looks like, I'm not sure what's happening. Somebody else is thrown in the towel. I don't know if that's Chaos Sid. Maybe he's just not able to move into his secondary natural expansion. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I do think we get a star on who wins here somewhere. No, we don't get a star. Either way, Master Leaf was up on, it looks like, just about everything here. Units, stats, and whatnot. And I don't know if the end title screen tells specifically who lost. That's a little infuriating. I didn't see the buildings for Chaos Sid get destroyed, but I think I'm going to give that victory to Master Leaf. He definitely had the advantage. He definitely had the economics for it, and he was up on structures and everything. So I'm definitely going to give that to Master Leaf for the time being. Round 3 takes place on Toxicity. Over in the top left-hand corner, we have Chaos Sid playing the green, sticking with the GDI. His opponent, of course, is Master Leaf, now switching to Scion, very much so wanting to keep my scoreboard as a liar. He has moved on to Nod. Give me 1 second. I am going to give Master Leaf a point real quick. I really have no clue who won the first game. If someone wants to let me know, maybe I missed something there, that would definitely be super helpful, because I have no idea, and I have to make a guess on who won that last one, which I've got to give to Master Leaf. I don't see any reason why he would FF. Looks like things are already starting off strong for both sides. A couple of really good scouts out, and it looks like Master Leaf is producing a couple of rushes. He's wanting to keep this game interesting. So far, he's gotten different rushes off on each game. Maybe he feels like rushes are the way to go, as a couple of Rocket squads and Cabal Confessor squads can do a good chunk of damage, but not if they run into too many of his Rifleman squads. He does back off, getting a little bit of a concave, as these Cabal Confessor squads just do so much damage to infantry, and they just sort of unload on people in general. Master Leaf catching the scouts in the north. Chaos Sid now has no scouts on the map, but he does know that Rocket squads and Cabal Confessor squads are making their way downtown, making their way over to his base. Maybe going for a softer target, maybe going for that Tiberium spike to give himself advantage, maybe expecting this game to go a little bit longer. Foxhole is going to do a little scouting, and I think should be able to take those units out. No, actually, the singular Black Hand squad attached to the Cabal Confessor squad was enough to stop it. APCs are here, at least 2 of them. Does look like we've got a couple of infantry inside of it, but Master Leaf does not care as he begins his assault on the Tiberium Spike. Tiberium Spike already at half HP. Master Leaf maybe sensing something does back off and doesn't continue his assault, maybe waiting for these APCs, maybe trying to bait out his opponent. Not sure quite yet. Watchtower out on the first main base, but it does get sold off in a couple of refineries with another Watchtower beginning to enjoy it. Low power mode there for the Watchtower. It does look like the powering down of the refinery is going to make the Watchtower come back online, which should be able to help with this assault, but this is going to be plenty of rocket squads to have to deal with. Looks like Master Leaf actually producing a Reckoner, getting a Reckoner rush out here and ready to go. Already getting deployed. Reckoner has so much HP left. Continuing this assault, continuing this rush. Now focusing on the War Factory, but not able to take it out. Does look like Master Leaf has turned his attention to these Watchtowers, so his assault can continue, so he can keep some of these units out. More and more Watchtowers do begin to join. Harvesters go in for the crush. War Factory getting targeted down by Master Leaf. These Black Hand squads now have a rocket squad inside of them because they get an additional deal as another refinery does go down, and probably soon followed by a power plant and maybe a Watchtower. Watchtower getting destroyed, body block there from the Tiberium silo, but the Black Hand squads do not care as they focus and begin to destroy it. Master Leaf getting so much out of that rush, actually even pulling one over me, and I don't even have Fog of War keeping my attention on those units, so I definitely would have fallen for this strategy. Black Hand Squad's actually in range of the construction yard. This is going to be extremely unfortunate for Chaos Sit to run into. Harvesters moving their way in, trying to get the crush, but the units run into the safety of the Reckoner. This has got to be infuriating. This has got to be a pain to deal with as construction yard does get targeted down and is already at half HP, and I'm not sure there's anything Chaos Sit can do because he might lose this construction yard this early in the game. He does get a body block out. Master Leaf pops his way out, trying to get a couple more shots off on this construction yard. It's so close to going down. Harvesters moving their way in for the crush, but it doesn't matter because the MCV does get taken down as Master Leaf gets so many gains from that assault. It's not over for Chaos Sit. The fat lady has not sung just quite yet, but she's getting close. Chaos Sit finally having a moment to breathe. Chaos Sit finally having a moment maybe to go on the assault. Either way, he's lost so much there. He didn't lose a crazy amount of harvesters, so he still got that, but he did lose refinery, and he did lose a couple of really important structures, including his MCV. Master Leaf sending some scouts out is going to be able to see this. Harvesters making their way maybe over here for the crush. Maybe not a bad idea. No, I don't know what these harvesters are doing. They need to be in the background. They need to be getting what resources they can. Maybe Chaos Sit has gotten tilted from that assault and is just going for an all-in. Either way, he's committing to this assault, using his harvesters for the crush, letting the Predator tanks and the APCs pick off the stragglers as more harvesters do get taken down. I think one harvester did go in the background. Harvester's just doing a phenomenal job crushing Master Leaf's units. This has got to be equally as infuriating to lose so many of your infantry to these crushes as the harvesters just continue their absolute rampage. Master Leaf may actually be in trouble now. He had such amazing gains, but I've never seen harvesters get that many crushes. Master Leaf maybe not expecting that. Chaos Sit pulling one over on me. Shredder turrets out here on the front line, but this is just going to be so much armor to deal with as one harvester does get taken down by Chaos Sit, and Chaos Sit sends more and more reinforcements on the way, is now beginning to focusing on that War Factory, trying to stop those Scorpion tanks are coming out there for the defense, selling off of the War Factory. Master Leaf saving a little bit of money in his bank. He does have time to fight this. If he's able to fight off this assault, he will be able to slow down Chaos Sit, as Chaos Sit is not really producing too much over here. He doesn't have, like, this is basically turned into a rush for Chaos Sit as most of his resources are here. Most of his harvesters went in for the crush. Assault is continuing as Master Leaf moves his Scorpion tanks down from the north to the south to continue with this assault and continue to poke on his opponent, and things might slowly but surely turn into Master Leaf's favor. But this does give Chaos Sit time to build up. But Chaos Sit does throw in the towel, having only one harvester there in the background. Master Leaf's rush just too much. Chaos Sit definitely fighting valiantly against Master Leaf, doing a very good job, almost able to pull one off on him. But Master Leaf is one of these better players and does have these strategies in the back of his head, especially when he's being consistent. Either way, things are definitely heating up. We might get a full 5 games out of these two players. I'll see you in the next round. One moment. Thank you ever so much for joining me on Badland Hills. Over on the left, still in the green, hanging on to his GDI. This is Chaos Sit. His opponent still for the moment on the top right-hand corner of the map, playing Cyan, finally sticking to a color, and moving on to, it looks like, Nod. This is Master Leaf. I guess he did play Nod in the last round. Give me one moment. I'm going to give Master Leaf another point here in a second. Let me unscale. This is such a pain to do it this way, and I don't know how to do it off camera. There we go. Back into the match. Master Leaf has been very consistent in his rushes, so if I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to contend with this. Maybe we'll get 2 War Factories and a sell-off. Although Master Leaf doesn't seem to favor the sell-off. He wants to get what gains he can from the rushes and then turn that into an advantage rather than his entire strategy, at least from what I've seen. I haven't seen him do too many sell-offs. Drive likes to do them for sure, and I'm sure plenty of other players will try to do that. Looks like Master Leaf is going for another rush. He's got an Operations Center out and ready to go, which means he can sell that off and get a couple of Black Hand Squads, maybe getting a Reckoner, maybe getting a Flame Tank. He hasn't done a Flame Tank rush yet, so we might see a Flame Tank here in a moment. Chaos Sit may be able to see it there with the garrison structure. Does look like Flame Tank is going to be the name of the game, and they're probably going to run directly into the scouts of Chaos Sit. I'm curious what Chaos Sit can see. Yeah, he did see really everything that was there. Selling off of 2 of the Reckoners. It looks like maybe Master Leaf is trying to keep the attention on this Flame Tank and maybe get the Reckoner ignored, but he's going to run right into the scouts of Chaos Sit, which means Chaos Sit has time to prep for it. He's going to see both things coming, and he's got to prepare for it accordingly. Good countermeasure for this Reckoner would be getting that Pitbull out into it and start taking a couple of really good shots off on it. They don't do as well into the Flame Tanks. It does look like one Pitbull does scout it, as Master Leaf does a really good job of microing here, getting his Black Hand Squads almost taking down that unit. Master Leaf also going for the power plant for his opponent. Pitbull moving its way over to the south, but that doesn't mean that Reckoner can move its way around with it, and go for its primary target. Pitbull's not catching anything and actually moving too far out of the base. If they're not careful, they're not really going to be able to stop anything. One Predator tank will be able to do a good chunk of damage to the Flame Tanks, but I'm not sure Master Leaf cares as he moves his Reckoner inside of his opponent's base, setting himself up, avoiding the silo, putting himself right next to the War Factory. Master Leaf doing it once again, getting another Reckoner rush up on his opponent. Chaos Sit tried everything he could, but it was not enough. He was not paying attention to his Pitbull as the War Factory does go down. Master Leaf beginning to target the refinery, getting amazing gains from these rushes into Chaos Sit. Chaos Sit doing everything he can to put down as many of these silos to protect his village. Does look like the Reckoners are going to pop their way in and out, or sorry, the Black Hand are going to pop their way in and out of the Reckoner to try and save some of the damage. Maybe able to get a final kill on this refinery. Reckoner just about to go down, but it might go down to the same time as the refinery. Reckoner is destroyed. Master Leaf's going to pop his units out just in time. Does look like Predator tanks are going to go for the crush, but they're going to have a hard time keeping up with the Black Hand as Master Leaf splits up his forces to split up his opponent, and most importantly, keeps those forces inside of his opponent's base. Looks like we've got an airfield with a command post. Command post is getting a laser fence in order for the protection, but I'm not sure how much is going to matter. Master Leaf not wanting to prolong his engagement over there is going to move his Black Hand squads, which it looks like both have actually survived. These Black Hand squads are going to find even more purchases by going for those Tiberium spikes. If you didn't know, there's 2 over here in the south, so there's 3 in total. Master Leaf's already destroyed 1, destroyed a refinery. Actually, Master Leaf going for the softer target, going for the airfield, selling off of the Operations Center to try to save that factory, but it didn't matter as it does get destroyed, and Master Leaf is just absolutely all over the map, being an amazing arsonist in this, destroying building and structure after structure, destroying APC. Rig out on the front line, making its way over to the first natural expansion for Master Leaf, setting itself up. These Pitbulls are going to be hard to dislodge, but these Cabal Master Squads can do a decent amount of damage to them. Rig moving his way forward, trying to turn it out on the front line. AP ammo inside of this APC. Predator tanks here joining the assault, helping the Rig out. APC getting targeted down by the Scorpion tanks of Master Leaf. Master Leaf moving a couple of man spam over here, trying to push out this assault. He does not need this on his front lawn, as I think that was a Harvester. No, actually, that was the Scorpion going down, selling off of the Shredder turret, giving a couple more forces, as I think this assault has been stalled and maybe destroyed here. Chaos Sit is going to be in danger after this assault, as Master Leaf produces plenty of man spam here to salt that, as the Rig does go down. Always happy to see a rig out on the front line. I don't feel like it gets used quite as much. Maybe it's not quite as cost effective. Master Leaf keeping up the pressure over here, having a couple of these attack bites out and ready to go. No rocket ammo for them just quite yet. No tip core missile, I guess, for them just quite yet. And they are going to run into the APCs, which are going to be able to do a good chunk of damage to them. Master Leaf not able to long distance harvest that natural expansion being forced out. Maybe trying to ignore it instead. I guess they are going to absorb some of the shots. Maybe he's just not paid attention to them. Maybe he's trying to get a scout off. I'm not sure. Mine drop is going to be there for the APCs. Master Leaf not taking over that defensive tower. Master Leaf's losing a couple of harvesters for free, but I guess a bonus is that his opponent is going to be a little distracted. Chaos Set is going to finally see the danger that is coming his way as he loses a harvester. Pitbull in for the scout. It's only going to be able to do so much damage as Master Leaf moves his rocket bikes in there to do it. APCs are going to make their way into the back line of these units, into the watchtower. They may get sandwiched here in a moment. Selling off of the refinery. This old main base is all but gone. APCs are now getting targeted, and there's the pincer move as Master Leaf's forces begin to dwindle down. Chaos Set losing 3 APCs, but having plenty where that came from, is going to be able to stop the assault, but not before having to lose that refinery and at least a singular harvester. Salt has begun to wind down over inside of his base. I say that as Master Leaf tries to keep on the pressure, moving a couple of these attack bikes in. Not sure what they were able to get a kill on. I entirely missed that. Hopefully they were able to get a harvester, but the watchtower is going to be plenty to deal with those units. Master Leaf needs to begin a transition. Maybe Scorpion tanks are going to be transitioning. Doesn't have another operations center out and ready to go, so maybe he's going to get a flame tank. Maybe he's going to keep up this aggression. APC is getting spotted. Sorry, APC's getting spotted and taking out one of those attack bikes. Probably should drink some of that tea real quick. 1 second. Scorpion tanks moving their way in the north, which is not where they need to go. They need to counter these APCs. Scorpion tanks would be pretty good into the AP ammo APCs, but they will make a good note of themselves. Chaos Set being the first to move into the center of the map. Obelisk Light there from the front line for the defense. That's definitely going to be enough to push out these APCs because it will absolutely chew through them. Chaos Set being the first to grab some blue Tiberium here in the center and is definitely inclined to do a bit of a base rush. Master Leaf moving on his natural expansion, spotting all of these APCs. APCs having to back their way out because I'm not sure they want this assault because they're focusing most of their fire on the Scorpion tanks, which I guess do a good chunk of damage, but I think Master Leaf has plenty of units here to supplement that damage as well. Master Leaf producing a Purifier and a Redeemer engineering facility out on the front line as all of his APCs do get taken down by the man spam. You're supposed to be anti-infantry, but if you've got enough to throw on the wall. Chaos Set actually throwing in the towel. Scene is not able to do anything. I thought he might have been in a good spot. Maybe he lost his MCV that was sitting there in the center. I'm not sure. Either way, he's given Master Leaf yet another point, I believe. I think I have this scoreboard probably wrong. I really wish... Master Leaf definitely won that one. He does have... I guess I can show you real quick. He does have the star, which we did not see in that last round whatsoever. So I don't know if that was a disconnect, if that round is not supposed to count. I don't know why they would include it in the replay pack. But Master Leaf definitely has a star, so he definitely did get the victory on this one. I'm not sure what was up with that last one. Not sure if it's a bug or what it is. Either way, we're going to move on to round number 5. Just ignore my scoreboard. It's apparently a complete lie. Round 5 takes place on the map I have a hard time saying, which I believe is Atacama Road. We're going to go with that. Over in the top left-hand corner of the map, at least sticking to his color, this is Lamos playing the GDI. His opponent not sticking to a color, switching over to red, but moving on to black hand, this is Master Leaf. I think Master Leaf is the favored to win this, and this should be the tiebreaker. So maybe a couple of those matches did actually end up going to Chaos Set, at least in terms of point-wise. The scoreboard did not reflect that either in mine or at the end title screen. So I kind of wish there was a better way to tell that kind of stuff. Because there was no victor or like gold star on whoever won with some of those matches. So it's really hard to tell sometimes. Chaos Sit still opting for a standard strategy, probably going to expect a another rush from Master Leaf. I doubt he's going to mix up his crazy rush tactics at this point in the game. Not enough blue Tiberium for anyone to grab just quite yet, but over time it will build up. Master Leaf sandwiching the scouts of Chaos Sit. Chaos Sit trying to establish a foxhole there, but not able to get it down. Master Leaf doing a good job of controlling the vision on that blue Tiberium. There is the rush. The scouts are down for Chaos Sit. Probably going to get a Flame Tank, maybe another Reckoner rush once again. Either way, that'll remain to be seen. I guess if we get a secondary operations center, then we might get that. Looks like Bike is going to be the name of the game. One Flame Tank, one Bike. A couple other things propping up. Chaos Sit is going to see the operations that are out on the front line, know that a rush is coming, but maybe not know that the Flame Tank has already made its way across the map. Reckoner is here, is going to get scouted, and one Black Hand squad is all that's going to be inside of this Reckoner. I take it back. There it is. There's the other operations center. There are now two in it as Master Leaf moves his Flame Tank over on the left flank and moves his Reckoner over on the right flank with a couple of these Cabal Confessor squads there doing a little bit of scouting. Not sure why they're making their way back. Would be nice to see them help this assault attack bike trying to support the Reckoner. Flame Tank going for maybe the Tiberium Spike, maybe making its way all the way around into its opponent's base. Either way, Chaos Sit might be in danger. Pitbull's moving their way into these Reckoners. Does look like Master Leaf has deployed his Black Hand squad, which will do significantly better in that, and he's been able to keep his opponent distracted as the Flame Tank moves its way in once again, and the rush begins. There is one Predator Tank out on the front line that can help. They do need to split up their forces. The Pitbulls and the Predator Tank need to go opposite directions in order to catch this Flame Tank. Flame Tank taking down the refinery down to half HP. Flame Tank down to half HP itself. There it goes. It's taken out as Master Leaf finds great purchase, and this is going to give him time to move his Reckoner in, and there it is right on cue. Reckoner is out. Reckoner getting deployed. Another refinery getting focused down. This might already be over for Chaos Sit. Chaos Sit is in danger. Losing two refineries is definitely going to sting, especially if he cannot replace it, selling off of one of the warp factories, but it's too little too late. Maybe he's got enough resources to get one of these refineries going. Either way, Master Leaf has a massive lead on his opponents. Black Hand squad's getting crushed and getting destroyed by these harvesters. Harvesters wanting to get revenge because they have nothing to do right now because they have no refinery. Refinery does come out on the main base, but the damage is dealt. Master Leaf has a pretty massive lead on his opponents. Secret Shine is out as well. Looks like Bike and Buggy might be the combination over here for Master Leaf. One Black Hand squad did manage to make it out, but they're going to get crushed once again by those harvesters. Chaos Sit doing everything he can to regain his footing, to regain a hold against Master Leaf. Pitbulls, if they're not careful, are going to run into these rocket squads, run into these infantries, which they will not fare well into whatsoever. Chaos Sit looking for some sort of hole inside of Master Leaf's armor, trying to get back on his own footing. And attacking your opponent can be a good way to reset the tempo in your favor. Predator Tank's about to run into some of the scouts there for Master Leaf. Master Leaf having a good chunk of bikes out here ready to go, which means they should have enough volleys to begin to take out these Predator Tanks. There's only two of them so far, and some of them are already hurting. Master Leaf going for the full health. Predator Tank do manage to take it out. Now they just have to focus on the half HP one. A couple of attack bikes do go down, but there's still plenty of attack bikes to replace that. One Harvester just sort of left here to its doom is going to get destroyed, and Chaos Sit is going to be in danger. APCs can do pretty well into these units. However, this is going to be a lot to deal with, and Master Leaf is just not letting up the pressure whatsoever. He's definitely more practiced for this one than he was the IES. Watchtower out on the front line, pushing the bikes of Master Leaf out. Getting at least our first temporary lull, but Master Leaf wanting to keep up the action is still poking around for something he can grab, something he can snack on. Maybe going for a Tiberium Spike would get that tempo back in his favor. It looks like that is indeed going to be what he's going to go for. That's going to force Chaos Sit to have to either deal with it or lose those resources. Either way, it's going to be a win-win for Master Leaf because the tempo is back in his favor. APC's moving their way in. They should be able to take a good number of damage. Master Leaf needs to move his way out as one attack bike does get taken down. APCs do get targeted. One does get pushed back with the reverse move as it's at half HP. Attack bikes are now beginning their assault on the APCs. One does go down. Tiberium Spike does go down, destroying another lifeline there for his opponent, for Chaos Sit. APC still continuing to move their way. Master Leaf using Tiberium Spikes to continue to keep the tempo in his favor. Now going for the upgraded power plant. Watchtower out on the front line. APC's Master Leaf's assault might be down, but the power plant does get taken down, stopping the Watchtower, maybe giving Master Leaf a hole to actually get these units and let them escape out. I think that was AP ammo there in the background. Maybe. I can't tell just quite. Yeah, it does look like we do have AP ammo, but Master Leaf somehow able to wiggle his way out of that situation by destroying one of the power plants on his way out. APC still going down left and right. That's going to be really unfortunate for his opponent. His Chaos Set has a rig over inside Master Leaf's base trying to keep the assault over. I guess with the APCs and the rig, that won't be too bad, but you're still going to have to deal with these attack bikes over here by Master Leaf. Master Leaf taking a couple more pot shots after the Harvester, taking it down to half HP. Rig is in place. APCs are ready to go. It looks like an assault for Chaos Set is beginning to get set up in the south. Low power mode has finally ended over here for Chaos Set. Chaos Set deploying his rig, making his APCs move their way forward. This could be the winning combo here against, but the attack bikes move in on the background, probably going for some of these APCs in the background, or maybe just ignoring them entirely. Attack bikes getting at least one APC sort of on their way to the store. Laser turrets out here for the front line for the defense, destroying these APCs. Only 3 of them left so far. Master Leaf looking for a hole inside of Chaos Set's armor, but Chaos Set being a little bit more on top of it when it comes to his defense, at least this time around. It's taken him a while, but he's been able to get his hands on a little bit better defense. It looks like Chaos Set is moving into the secondary natural expansion of Master Leaf. May not be a bad idea. He's got a good number of these APCs, and he does control that sector, which is going to stop Master Leaf if he wants to go over here, but Master Leaf might just turn around and head this direction. Looks like he was already in that direction. APCs and rigs making their way into the first natural expansion of Master Leaf. Rig probably going to get deployed here in a moment. There is the rig. It has been deployed inside of that field. Temple of Nod out on the front line. MCV getting targeted down to half HP by just a couple of these bikes. Bikes need to move their way down over to the APCs, selling off of something there in the background to give a little bit of resources. 2 obelisk of lights here for the defense. That should be enough to push these out, but they're not far enough forward in order to keep the APCs entirely out. They are here for the defense. We do have a Purifier out over here for Master Leaf as he moves his way into this rig to push out this assault. Chaos Set can't really afford to lose this, and there it is. He's thrown in the towel, and he is out of the tournament. Master Leaf will proceed further on into the tournament, and Chaos Set is knocked out unless that elimination game does happen. I still have more for you, Commander, so give me one moment, and I'll queue up the next one. We are now on match number 3, round 1. On the map, Twilight Highlands. Starts off over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the Steel Talons in the red. Give it up for Bike Rush. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, wearing the pink robes, sporting the Steel Talon gloves. Sorry, the Zocom gloves. This is Aquatech. Aquatech into Bike Rush. I think it does favor Bike Rush, and that'll remain to be seen here in a minute. But Aquatech can make a good accounting from himself, or for himself. Gonna be really unfortunate to run into Bike Rush this early on in the series, but like I said, there is that elimination bracket. And if you give me one moment, I will reset up both parts of the scoreboard. There we are. Sorry about that. And come on, transition. There we go. Tournament Highlands is brought to you by the Indecision, empowered by the Observation Guild. Wow, words are hard. Let's try that one more time. This moment of indecision is powered by the Observation Guild. We don't play, we just judge. Sounds like I need more caffeine. Not Master Leaf. I got used to saying Master Leaf. Bike Rush moving inside of Aquatech's base, but Aquatech having a couple of these rocket harvesters, which means they're going to be delodge these foxholes rather quickly. But that does mean that Master Leaf has seen those rocket harvesters, and he knows exactly what his opponent is going to play. Moving a garrison squad inside to start taking shots off at that Tiberium Spike, which means that Aquatech will be either forced to begin to repair it or send a response down to the south. Foxhole finally going down inside of that. Looks like MRTs are going to be the name of the game here for Bike Rush. Bike Rush loading those up with a couple of rocket squads, moving around probably to the northern section of the map, maybe trying to catch the MCV of Aquatech. Aquatech finally able to dislodge the units that were heading his way, but he is going to intercept the construction yard, forcing Master Leaf to deploy just a little bit sooner probably than he wants to. MRTs making their way across the center of the map, probably into a northern assault here in a minute. Tiberium Spike getting close down to half HP. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate you being here. A follow is always appreciated if you don't mind. Things are definitely much slower than our previous game. Master Leaf wanting to keep us on our toes. This one seeming to be a little bit more of a traditional strategy from both players. MRTs getting them out this early is not really that unheard of. Like it's pretty normal, pretty vanilla for the most part. Master Leaf is the first to set up a refinery. Aquatech a little bit behind, but Master Leaf is going to be, Master Leaf. Bike Rush is going to be significantly more practiced than most players. Is going to be extremely methodical in his build orders. He practices them, plays them over and over and over. And he almost nonstop continues to play various different RTSs. Hammerhead with AP ammo out on the front line does look like for Aquatech, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. Is that Aquatech's Hammerhead? It's really hard to see. Master Leaf is shooting at it, so it's got to be Aquatech's Hammerhead. Master Leaf keeping the APC, or keeping the rocket harvesters outside of their harvest range, outside of their own field. Master Leaf does not need to win this assault. He just needs to stop those harvesters from harvesting. AP ammo watchtowers are going to be enough to push the forces of Master Leaf out, but they do need to be careful because they can continue to take pot shots at those harvesters. Tiberium Spike now down to half HP as actually Master Leaf moves into his opponent's base with all of these pitfalls, focusing on some of these harvesters, taking down one harvester with a full load of Tiberium as it does get destroyed over time. Another one getting focused on, and no response here from Aquatech. This one might already be over. Bike Rush has kept his opponent distracted over there in the north as more and more harvesters for Aquatech do begin to go down. Predator tanks and AP ammo did manage to win that assault over there, but not before damage was dealt. Bike Rush producing a couple of Titans moving their way to the center of the map. Looks like that's 4 so far, joined together by at least some pit bulls. Those pit bulls are going to be important for the defense because it looks like we're going to get a good chunk of hammerheads. At least we have one so far. Only one airfield, but I think we only have the one hammerhead, and it is hurt. But Master Leaf might be, or sorry, Master Leaf, dang it. Bike Rush might be expecting a more air-oriented assault. 2 barracks out of the front line. It looks like man spam is going to be the name of the game for Aquatech. Aquatech moving into the center of the map, wanting to get that control. Aquatech doing nothing about his Tiberium Spike over there in the south. Titans moving into the north, trying to position, maybe making their way all the way around. If they can make it there uncontested, and with some MRTs, they will be in a good spot, but Aquatech may not give him time. Aquatech moving into Bike Rush's base. Bike Rush might be on the defensive if he's not careful here. Couple of Wolverines are going to be good into the man spam. No Titans or anything out yet. Too much. Bike Rush maybe sensing something coming is going to put a laser fence around his war factory. Refinery is going to get targeted. Body block from the power plant to absorb some of those shots, giving the Wolverines time to make their way in. Wolverines do have their AP ammo, so they can begin to hurt these tanks, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. Refinery is getting targeted down. Body block of the barracks is going to happen in Bike Rush is doing his assault over there in the north. Barracks does get taken down. Mammoth Tank does move its way here. Looks like the tech is going to be the upgrade. More and more body blocks left and right. War Factory still somehow alive. And Master Leaf continuing his relentless assault on top of his opponent's natural expansion. Not only has been able to defend, he's also been able to attack at the same time. And Aquatech's having a hard time keeping up as he loses the lion's share of his harvesters on that first natural expansion. Mammoth Tank with railguns going to make its way into the center of the map. That would have been a good time for Aquatech to focus on that Mammoth Tank. because it was isolated, didn't have any defense, but it's too little too late now as Rifleman squads begin to join the fray. Aquatech did manage to push his opponents out, but Bike Rush is going to continue to hang out here and continue to get repaired from the MRTs. And as soon as Aquatech moves his forces out, Bike Rush immediately moves back in, and Bike Rush is not sitting idly by as he moves a good chunk of his units over here into the center of the map, focusing on all these rocket squads, using a good number of these Rifleman squads with AP ammo to continue this assault. Manitank might actually be in a bit of a danger as it goes down to half HP. Adaptive armor is there, and it's going to pop its way out. Maybe just able to save it. Yeah, just able to save that Manitank. Shatterers here to kill the infantry of Aquatech. Master Leaf moving uncontested inside of Aquatech's base while this assault is continuing. More and more Manitanks begin to join the fray, and things might be looking rather unfavorably here for Aquatech. Aquatech losing a armory here to the adaptive armor titans with railguns. One Manitank did get taken down, but the Wolverines are here to get a little bit of revenge on those rocket swords, which were able to get the kill. It looks like Aquatech did opt to get the repair on that facility. One Titan taken down. Looks like only one remaining. Two MRTs are still up, so it can still potentially stay up, but the Orca is beginning to take a couple of shots off at these instead. Aquatech using his rocket harvesters to best effect that he possibly can, as it looks like Bike Rush is taking down the construction yard of Aquatech. Aquatech in an unfortunate position. He just cannot keep up with the onslaught that is Bike Rush. Bike Rush just cannot be stopped. He's this slow-moving snowball in the center of the map, and he's able to attack Aquatech inside of his own base. There it is. Aquatech taken out by Bike Rush, giving the first round to him, to Bike Rush, that is. Yeah, see, that's another thing, too, is even in this match, it was very clear in that one that Aquatech threw in a GG. This is Dutch Army? Is it? Did I have this wrong? Oh my god. All right. Let me check my notes here. Womp womp. I mean, I guess you would know. You were literally there. Oh, you know what? Honestly, I saw a B and a K, and I immediately assumed that that was Bike Rush. But was Master Leaf 2 for a little while. Was a nice cast, though. I mean, the cast isn't done, but I am going to kill my my scoreboard, since apparently that is completely wrong, and that is not Bike Rush. That is Dutch Army. Moving on to our next round, I'm just going to murder my scoreboard since it's entirely wrong. Only half of it's right. That's definitely not Bike Rush. Speaking of, over in the top right-hand corner, correction, this is not Bike Rush. This is Dutch Army. And this time he's sticking to his red, and it looks like he is playing, I think this is Steel Talons. Yes, Steel Talons. Over in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, rocking the pink, playing the, let's see, man, my notes are all over the place, Zocom. This is Aquatech. That part is finally right. I can fix the scoreboard. We do have 1 point towards Dutch Army. I did think it was super weird when I was going through the replay vault, and I thought I saw Bike twice, and I was like, why did Bike get 2 games? But I was like, whatever. I'm not going to spend the brain cells on it. It sounds like I probably should have, because I've been mislabeling Dutch Army Bike Rush this whole time. Either way, Dutch Army's done very, very well into Aquatech so far. I don't get to see I don't think I've actually ever done Dutch Army. No, I've done Dutch Army in one cast, if I remember correctly, and that's the only time I've done one of his games personally. I've seen him like once or twice in Cybert's cast. And if I remember correctly, Dutch Army is primarily a Red Alert 3 player. Maybe just wanting to come hang out for the tournament, or maybe just not being a regular Kane's Wrath tournament unless he just feels the particular itch for it. Does look like we got a good rush here by Aquatech. No, actually, that's not really a rush, but it is a reinforcement that can turn into a rush. I was thinking that was the reinforcement of his opponent, of Dutch Army over there. Aquatech moving a couple of these units across the map, spending a little bit more resources maybe than he wanted to. Not doing any sort of all-in yet. Construction yard probably producing a refinery in the background, which means he's going to be a little bit behind Dutch Army for this. Dutch Army producing a couple of Wolverines, maybe expecting infantry but is not going to get that. Pitbulls are going to spot the construction yard. Watchtower is going to pop its way out, and it should be able to push these forces out. Does look like Aquatech was trying to be cheeky there with an engineer and an ox cart trying to steal that MCV. Almost got it off, but Dutch Army was ready for it. Aquatech moving inside of Dutch Army's base, taking a couple of pot shots off at the Harvester, taking it down to half HP, another Watchtower, and most importantly, no, this is actually the hammerhead of Aquatech. Aquatech supporting these reinforcements with these units. Pitbulls only being the only target, or being the only unit that can target them. Dutch Army not wanting to give up the assault is putting Watchtower after Watchtower out on the front line to push his opponents out. Rifleman squads moving their way directly into their doom, taking a couple of shots from those Watchtowers as they do get destroyed. Microing is definitely here for a player like Dutch Army. Looks like Aquatech was able to sneak and grab that Tiberium Spike, forcing his opponent, forcing Dutch Army to spend resources to get another engineer inside of it. Aquatech trying to take out that engineer, but it's too little too late as the reinforcements have to back their way out in order to not get pinched by some of these units, and they may get pinched anyways, as a good chunk of Pitbulls here for Dutch Army have begun to make their way across the map. If they can focus on the Pitbulls, they can do a really good job, and I think they should come out on top. APC almost going down. Dutch Army keeping up his micro, absolutely showing that it is a little bit more superior in terms of Aquatech and in terms of being a Red Alert 3 player. Pitbulls are going to get taken down, as it looks like Dutch Army has done a very, very good job of getting as much value out of these units, keeping the units out of the fray where he could, as the majority of the reinforcements for Aquatech have been taken down. Aquatech finally getting another refinery out, moving on to his first natural expansion, but he's going to have to contest with Dutch Army making his way over into his base. Dutch Army now has free reign on that construction yard and has plenty of Pitbulls there to deal the damage. A couple of Pitbulls for Aquatech are beginning the assault, as it looks like Aquatech throws in the towel, giving another victory to Dutch Army. And see, that right there is why I got confused, because I figured no one else would name themselves that unless they were like Bike Rush. And actually, when I even looked up it, I couldn't see it. Aquatech saying that the second game was a bit of a flop because he had a rifleman snipe his entire rush. 2 rockets at the start. Oh, I guess I missed the 2 rockets. Yeah, that would make a bit of a difference. That's extremely unfortunate. What's not unfortunate is we're moving on to round number 3 on the map, Tournament Highlands. Over in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have Aquatech playing the, looks like, my notes are completely wrong, playing the Zocom, sticking with, or moving to purple, I should say. His opponent is not Bike Rush, is not Master Leaf. This is Dutch Army in the red, playing Steel Talons. Steel Talons into Zocom. Looks like both players have been happy to stick with their respective factions. Sniper squad's out over here for Aquatech. He looks like he's pretty serious about grabbing either that Tiberium Spike or something else. Rifleman squads here for the defense as well. Snipers taking out one of the rifleman squads in the north and helping in the south. There is going to be a foxhole over here. Another sniper is going to, or same sniper is going to take out a couple of those rifleman squads. Aquatech maybe deciding to go for this EMP control center. Not sure what his plan is yet with the engineer. There's also a Tiberium Spike all the way in the north, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone grab this Tiberium Spike in the north. Wolverines and Pitbulls are going to be the start for Dutch Army. Moving his way into the center of the map, trying to get some of that control, maybe seeing that engineer and trying to keep Aquatech off of that free Tiberium Spike. Well, contested Tiberium Spike. Aquatech is going to make the long trek, it looks like, all the way to the north to steal that. I guess if there's no eyes on him, it wouldn't be that bad of an idea. Pitbull moving its way in. Pitbull, most importantly, going to see engineer here and is... I don't know what the second engineer is for. Maybe he doesn't expect the other one to make it. Wolverine is going to snipe it down, though, before it doesn't matter, so nobody's ever going to know what the purpose of that engineer was for. I don't know. Looks like the engineer might make it to the north if it doesn't get... the Pitbull's going to have a hard time sniping it. Wolverine making its way into the northern expansion for Aquatech. So far, all of the games I've watched of this map, it usually even ends before people get to the Tiberium over there. So we don't get to experience the northern section of the map too often. Wolverine trying to go for the intercept, but I think it's going to be too little too late as the Engineer moves its way in on that Tiberium Spike. Aquatech finally able to find a little bit of purchase, a little bit of footing, moving a couple of Predator tanks into his opponent's base who might be caught unawares. However, there is one Titan here in the front line that should do significant damage to these Predator tanks, especially if it has Defender's Advantage. But if Aquatech plays this right, he can hang out in the tip of this Tiberium field and keep his opponent from harvesting, keep Dutch Army from harvesting. 2 Titans are going to spell the doom for this assault. 2 more, it does look like tanks do join the fray. That can tip the scales here, but the Predator tanks are around half HP. Aquatech doing a better job of microing his units, but if he's not careful, he's going to lose some of these guys here in the center. Titans moving their way forward. More and more tanks join the assault. Aquatech trying everything he can to keep things up on his opponent, but the Defender's Advantage and that War Factory are going to be something to dealt with. One unit getting caught in some unfortunate microing there, taking a good chunk of damage from those rocket squads, maybe getting taken out here in a moment. Looks like that Wolverine is on full patrol mode over on the northern section of Aquatech's base. Aquatech trying desperately to find a hole inside of the armor of Dutch Army. Dutch Army not letting up whatsoever. He is on the defensive. However, he does continue to get these slow but sure, like whittling defenses, destroying a couple of more and more forces of Aquatech. Aquatech only having 1 refinery. That's going to bite him in the butt. It looks like maybe this was meant to be a rush. Yeah, it looks like he did try to force a little bit of a rush out there. He got a sold off of the MCV, which I missed over there in the background. So he's fully committed to this. If he's not able to get the gains that he needs, he will be in danger. 4 more tanks can join the fray. This would normally work into another player, but Dutch Army is just absolutely on top of it. Dutch Army producing these Titans, anticipating this assault, getting ready for everything like that, can make a massive difference as the lion's share for the remaining forces of Aquatech are getting taken down. He's not able to concave while his opponent is able to get a really good concave out, and more reinforcements join the fray, and more tanks go down for Aquatech. It's not looking good for him. I think my game just crashed. Yep. I guess that's probably the end of that one. I know that's rather unceremonious, but that's the end of that match. I don't think Aquatech was going to be able to turn that one around whatsoever. That was the end. Oh, okay. Well, the end killed my replay. Like, it crashed my whole game as soon as it was over, so I'm not sure what was up with that. All right, the way, thank you very much for the play, Aquatech. Better luck next time in the elimination round. Don't forget that that is still an option for you to move further in. Okay, we are back in the game. I'm just waiting for OBS to realize. There we go. We have moved on to match number 4 on the map, Twilight Highlands. And unless I am mistaken, over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the green in the black hand, this is Llamas. And make sure there's not an alias here in a second, and I'll make sure I'm not repeating someone else in over here. Over on the bottom left-hand corner of the map, rocking the blue, playing the Steel Talons, this is Hyde. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's H-Y-D-E. So Hyde? Something like that. I'm sure someone will correct me at some point, either in the comments or in the chat, either way. Tournament Highlands is brought to you by the Tutorial Avoidance Hotline for players who'd rather lose than read instructions. Words are hard. I need more caffeine. Give me 1 second. I should have an accurate scoreboard this time around. There we go. That should be corrected. You should see a little bit of screen tearing here in a second, but it should end rather quickly. I think it's Hyde. Hyde? No, it's not Hyde. It's got to be like Hyde or something like that. Either way, it is Lamos into blue into Hyde. I'm just going to call him Hyde. 2 Tiberium spikes over here for Tournament Highlands. Both being protected. Tournament Highlands seems to be a favorite so far for the Chrono Clash. There is quite the pool of maps, if I remember correctly, for the Chrono Clash. Which will definitely be nice as we get into the quarter and the semifinals, especially the Hyde, aka Tipsy. Okay. Oh, okay. So I could have just called him Tipsy. I think I'm going to call him Tipsy because that one's much easier to pronounce, even though my scoreboard definitely says his other name. Do have a Raider buggy out over here for Tibzy. Tibzy out and ready to go. Tibzy actually being a player I'm a little bit more familiar with now, especially in the IES. He got some real funky strategies off into the IES, which is the tournament that Green Zero is, I guess, facilitating. I think that's probably the proper term for that, and is definitely casting. I'm doing a little bit of casting for it as well, but between him casting it and me casting it, I was getting nowhere near the amount of views that I normally do. So I'm probably going to space those out just a little bit and focus on the Chrono Clash. Not that I won't continue the IES. I do still have another one in the back burner, but I'm going to try to space them out a lot more and focus on the Chrono Clash. Do have a couple of bike and buggy traditional nod tactics over here for Llamas. Llamas moving into the Pitbulls, getting a couple of good Pitbull kills out on Tibzy. Tibzy not able to concave where he wants to, but maybe he does not care. However, he is going for the Raider buggies, which is not what he needs to do, because that's not where the primary punching power is. He loses Pitbull after Pitbull to Llamas. Llamas doing significantly better into Tibzy so far into this, but Tibzy has defender's advantage and is going to continue to produce out more and more of these Pitbulls as well as watchtowers. Plenty of Raider buggies here to absorb a good number of shots. Lamos, not wanting to sit idly by, is continuing to group in the south, maybe making his way over to a Tiberium Spike and force the tempo on that Tiberium Spike, maybe force Tibzy to respond. Tibzy not up to anything particularly weird. Happy to favor those Pitbulls, and that is going to be pretty good once you have the numbers into this bike and buggy combination, if you can get a couple of good shots off. Lamos is going to be able to take out the Tiberium Spike. No, it's going to stay alive. Lamos maybe underestimating how much damage that his units could do. Is going to take it out and maybe make his way over to his sector of the map and begin to regroup, because I don't think he wants to fight Tibzy yet with all of these Pitbulls. Tibzy doing a little bit more of a standard strategy. I was used to some of the crazy rush tactics, especially that he did into Master Leaf. Maybe it's just because he knows those players a little bit better and knows what he can get away with whom. And maybe expect something more traditional from Lamos, which of course Lamos is doing. Lamos going for these units over here, but it could spell his doom if he wastes his rockets on the Tiberium Spike before the fight even begins. Plenty of Pitbulls moving their way in, getting a couple of good shots off on at least one of the bikes, taking it down. But Lamos was able to make it down, make it out, and get that Tiberium Spike down to half HP. Command post probably producing a little bit of AP ammo there for Tibzy. Tibzy producing a couple of these Titans, leaving them inside of his Tiberium fields for the defense. One singular Wolverine there in the north to pad out that military. Bike and buggy right about to run into a little bit of danger here as the Pitbulls not wanting to fully engage. Tibzy not wanting to fully engage, that is wanting to group everything back just a little bit, although I think he wins that fight, but maybe he doesn't know what else Lamos has, and maybe that's what he's worried about, is what Lamos might potentially have. Lamos trying what he can to get a couple of scouts out in the north, but they get taken down by a Wolverine, so no more scouting for those units. Pitbull's grouping up in the center of the map. Tibzy already moving into that center, trying to get that control as quickly as he possibly can. Plenty of bike and buggy here to contest this. One Pitbull getting taken down. Assault might begin in earnest. There's the decoy army. Things might actually favor Lamos over here as he begins to focus down the forces of all of these Pitbulls. Pitbull's getting destroyed, but they're running into the safety of these Titans, which are going to take a couple of really good shots off on it. He did have to back his way out, but Lamos is in good shape after that one. If he can maintain the pressure, if he can maintain these kills, if he can continue killing these Titans like he did here, he can do quite well into Tibzy. Tibzy has time to turn things around and is not in a bad spot per se, but he did take a good chunk of unnecessary losses there into Lamos. Lamos moving over into the northern section of Tibzy base, maybe going for a bit of the infrastructure and keeping his man spam here in the south. Lamos grouping his forces over here, and he is indeed going to start an engagement over here. Only thing really to stop this here are a couple of watchtowers and a few Wolverines. Harvesters might get targeted here in a second, but right now the defense is here for his opponent, for Tibzy. Tibzy doing a good job of keeping the pressure off of his Harvesters. Harvesters still continue to harvest in the background. Those heavy Harvesters making a difference. They are finally going to get targeted over here by Lamos. Lamos is going to take out at least one of the Harvesters. Going to focus on the second Harvester. Second Harvester does manage to go down as Lamos begins his retreat. Titans making their way across the map into the man spam, which is not what they want. Pitbull's continuing the chase on all of this bike and buggy. Llama's finally moving into the center of the map, probably needing a little bit of resources to replace some of his losses. Bike and buggy coming out ahead over in the northern section near the blue Tiberium. Juggernauts, or I should say behemoths, out on the front line here for the defense that could make a difference. The problem's going to be dealing with this man spam. Titans with their adaptive armor and railguns are going to push out a good chunk of that bike and buggy. Obelisk of Light on the front line, almost able to get a shot off on a behemoth as it moves its way forward, but just not quite enough time. Watchtowers here for the defense. It looks like behemoths are being kept in a really good spot, being kept back, so they won't end up in some of the dangerous position. Behemoth's beginning to focus on the Obelisk of Light. There is the scout, which means they can see the MCV, they can see the man spam, they can see the forces of Lamos. It looks like we got a Obelisk of Light over here for the defense as the Titans move their way into his base, into Lamos's base. Another Obelisk of Light on the front line, getting a good shot, taking one of the Behemoths down to half HP, maybe able to kill one, but no, it does back its way out just in time. Mana Tank here to join the fray. Watchtowers keeping this man spam back. Behemoth's beginning to focus on the Obelisk of Light. Lamos cannot keep any of those alive. Watchtowers are finally getting targeted, are finally getting focus fired down, but they're getting replaced just as quickly. TibZ does want this fight. TibZ does want this defense because Lamos is going to continue to lose resources after resources, and most importantly, Lamos does not have a refinery out on the front line. Another Obelisk of Light. That is the third, fourth, fifth Obelisk of Light there for the defense, which is going to be able to push out the Behemoth, but only for so long. It's just delaying the assault on top of Lamos's base. Lamos is just, looks like Lamos is just trying to buy himself some time, maybe get that Redeemer out. That would be really good if he can get that Rage Generator into all of these Behemoths. That would make a massive difference. It is about half way completed. Construction Yard taking a couple more pot shots. Behemoths having to back their way out because of this man spam. Plenty of Watchtowers still in the front line. More Mana Tanks begin to join the fray as Lamos's forces, Lamos's army has got to be suffering. He's got to be suffering on the resources because he's out of Tiberium inside both of his base. He does have his Tiberium spike probably somewhere. He does have two Tiberium spikes, but that's all of his resources right now. Obelisk of Light on the front line once again, but still just a little bit too cautious with it, putting it a little bit too far back as the MCV does get taken down. Another Obelisk of Light does come out right there at the end, but it's only able to get a Wolverine. Redeemer is on its way out, and I suspect after this Redeemer goes down, that is the last lifeline there for Lamos. Such a massive, massive line here of Behemoths. Always nice to see them firing like that. What's not to love about a gigantic aircraft cannon with legs? These Obelisk of Lights have really only served as a defensive tactic to push his opponent out. Selling off plenty of the Watchtowers there, giving a bit of infusion of cash there for TibZ. Spectres do seem to be the name of the game. Not a bad idea. Another one is out. Not able to get a couple of shots off just quite yet. Artillery and artillery is probably what's going to work best for them. TibZ has invested quite heavily in this. There's the decoy army out there, so it can get a little bit of scouting off, a little bit of eyes where it needs to. Redeemer with 2 engineers inside it is going to get a massive, massive Rage Field Generator. Let's see if it actually pans out and gives any results. There is the EMP of the Redeemer as it gets its back armor focused on. There's a one-click focusing down one of the Spectres. Redeemer is in danger. This is the last lifeline there for Lamos. As soon as he loses the Redeemer, the game is all but over as TibZ is now uncontested and can just march his way through his opponent's base, and not a whole bunch TibZ can do. And to add insult to injury, it looks like those Mana Tanks made their way across over into the old main base of his opponent. Plenty of Wolverines here to mop up the man spam. Lamos may not know this, but this is TibZ's game to lose. He has to fail rather spectacularly in order to lose this. Couple of Spectres are here. They can do a good chunk of damage, and they are taking out a couple of these Wolverines, but Wolverines do march their way over to those Spectres. They do have the AP ammo, which means they're going to do a good chunk of damage into the Spectres. Does look like Shredder Target is completely ignored as they focus on these Spectres. Mana Tanks is still uncontested inside of Lamos's bait. There it is. He's thrown in the towel, giving the first win to TibZ, who, of course, is Hyde, however he wants to pronounce it. Either way, we're moving into round number 2, Commander. Give me one moment. Thank you ever so much for joining me on match 4, round 2 on the map. Tournament, my thing says Tournament Highlands. This is definitely not Tournament Highlands. I don't think I ever fixed that in my resort, which means all my notes might actually be wrong here. I don't think I ever completed that. Either way, in the north, this is Tip Z, I believe, playing Nod, because I no longer have any notes to see who's who, but this is Tip Z in the blue. Over in the green, this is Lamos, of course. Looks like he's playing GDI. Let me see if I can see what the harvesters are just quite yet. He doesn't have any harvesters, so I cannot tell you which faction he is of the GDI. Okay, it looks like we've got Cabal Cavester squads, which I remember correctly is Black Hand. So Black Hand into... what harvester do we have? Heavy harvesters. So I think this is Steel Talons. So Steel Talons into Black Hand. Tipsy playing Black Hand in the north, and his opponent playing Steel Talons in the south. Because if I remember correctly, Zocom has the Rocket Harvesters. Yeah, this is still a tournament replay between Tibz and Lamas. Let me fix this real quick. Because I pulled it directly from the replay vaults of the Chrono Strike. Oh, wait. That was Tibz's victory. That is not what I wanted. Sorry about that. That's wrong. They played a map which is not allowed. Really? This is not in the pool. Either way, we're actually getting a little bit of a massive aggressive assault over here as Tibz marches his way inside of his opponent's base with a rush. It looks like it might be an all-in with a Hand of Nod, everything there to go. This match might already be over before I can even really see what proper map that we are on. Construction yard is taken down as Lamos does get destroyed. It looks like Lamos is already out of this, from what it sounds like, a legal map. Harvester getting taken down. Refineries going down. Lamos is already out of this fight. I wonder if they uploaded a training match or if it was just a mistake. That's super weird. Let me check in the background and make sure that it is for sure the zip file I pulled from the replay vault. Yeah, that's definitely the one he uploaded. As in Lamos. Lamos put them in the replay vaults. Not sure if they just popped on the wrong map and they're just like, we'll just stick with it. Yeah, because that was Desert Rush. Desert Rush it really is not in the list. The next game definitely is, but that's super weird. Round number 3 takes place on Atacama Road. I don't know. I was surprised as well. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Over in the top sector of the map, playing the blue, probably still playing Black Hand. This is Tibz. His opponent still for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map wearing the green, also playing one of the Nod factions, maybe Black Hand, so maybe we've got a mirror match over here. This is Lamas. Give me a second while I update our score. Okay, you should see a little bit of screen tearing here with lossless being applied. There we go. That's a lot smoother. Tibz able to pull one off over me while I'm looking through my notes and apparently finding out, I guess that was an illegal map or something like that. Maybe they clicked on the wrong one or just didn't think about it. Either way, I'm not sure how that wants to be handled. I didn't even see if there was an observer in there to be like, oh, hey, you're on the wrong map. Either way, probably a small misstep. We are still moving into, and I know for sure this map is legal because I've already seen it a couple of times. But I guess I have to look at that list. I thought Desert Rush was in there, but I guess not. Tibz looking to keep it standard so far. He has time to transition into an all-in rush if he needs to. I think a lot of people wait till they get a refinery down and maybe 2 or 3 harvesters and then get their rush started. I do have a secondary refinery there for Tibz, so maybe not a all-in. He is moving down to his other natural expansion. So nothing cheeky just quite yet. That rush might have been entirely just to keep up the subverting of expectations there for Aquatech, to keep him on, not Aquatech, for Lamos to keep him on his toes. A couple of attack bikes moving their way in on the forces of, it looks like it was only a scout, killing one of the raider buggies there for Tibz. Blue's a little bit hard to see, so it's hard to make it out when it's, especially when it's in a mix of units that are pretty identical to one another. Lamos coming out strong with plenty of attack bikes and a Raider Buggy moving their way into Tibzi's base. Tibzi could be in danger, but he does have the Scorpion tanks out here for the defense. They're going to be able to absorb a good number of shots and move their way into the War Factory. One does get taken down. Laser turret out of the front line, killing a couple of these attack bikes. Attack bikes having to focus on the Scorpion tanks. Tibzi buying himself some time, trying to save his harvesters, but is going to lose Scorpion tank after Scorpion tank. A couple more reinforcements trying to join the fray, but they cannot get past the laser turret. Another Scorpion tank taken down. Another one being focused, about half HP. Rocket squads over here for the defense, finally able to dislodge Lamos from Tibzi's base. One attack bike not wanting to live, going in some weird autopathing, having one Ladybug's worth of HP. Lamos keeping up the assault. Think we have 2 war factories. It looks like Lamos is the one to go all in this time around. Got his refinery out and put his 2 war factories down, so he's going to invest heavily into this. Lamos spending time on this Tiberium Strike, maybe trying to bait out his opponent, but Tibzi playing a little bit smarter, staying inside his base because he knows it's just a matter of time before he comes out on head. The longer and longer the game goes, the better and better it is in his favor. Especially if he can produce a good chunk of like man spam to like push his way into his opponent's base. Second war factory is out for Tibzi. Raider Buggy's running into a couple of these rocket squads, trying to focus them down, trying to take them out because they are going to pose a little bit of a threat. Lamos losing a couple of these Raider Buggies, which he cannot really afford to do. Tibzi now going on the offensive, has a good chunk of attack bikes here for some much needed revenge. If they kill any of the harvesters, this is probably going to spell the doom for his opponents. They can afford to die if they can take out the harvester. One harvester is almost down. One harvester does get taken down. Only 2 remaining. That's going to be extremely costly for Lamos. Tibzi does lose all of his attack bikes, but taking out that one harvester is going to make a big difference, considering that he has to focus time on rebuilding another one, and it's going to slow down his economy, and he's already going to have economic problems into Tibzi, who's playing traditional while he is playing a rush. Every single moment that goes by is in Tibzi's favor. So the more and more he can delay it, the better and better things will be for him. Lamos trying everything he can to keep up the pressure and make every advantage that he possibly can with this rush. Raider Buggy's taking the lead as they should. Going to run into this Hand of Nod and start taking a couple of really good shots off of as Raider Buggy into Raider Buggy is going to happen here. Attack bike into attack bike here in a moment. The real notion is going to be who gets their volley off. 1, 2 attack bikes go down for Lamos. 1 attack bike goes down for Tibzi, but Tibzi can afford to take these losses while every single unit for Lamos is extremely valuable and is extremely important. Looks like Mass Rocket Squad is going to be the name of the game for the defense for that first natural expansion, as Tibzi moves the lion's share of his forces over to the left-hand side of the map. Maybe looking for a target, maybe going to go for Lamos's base. Not sure quite yet. It looks like they are trying to skirt their way around, not try to necessarily catch anyone. Tibzi is going to have one of his scouts notice where the majority of forces of Lamos are and is going to have time to move his rocket squads over there for the defense as he moves his way into his opponent's base. If he wipes out all of his harvester, the game is all but over. It is finally going to get spotted, but it might be too little too late as the attack bikes move in and start getting their kills, start getting their volleys off on these harvesters. They have decided to turn their assault around over on Tibzi's forces, or over on Lamos's forces, as Lamos loses attack bike after attack bike. He does have defender's advantage here, but if he loses any harvesters in it, it's absolutely going to sting. Tibzi almost able to take out 1 harvester, but is able to put at least a dent in all of these forces. But with 2 war factories and all in, they can replace it rather quickly. It's really just going to boil down to how much resources they can get their hands on. Tibzi can afford trades, but that is going to be an extremely expensive trade, and he was not able to focus down really anything of note. If he could get those harvesters, it might have made a huge difference, but he just couldn't manage it, and he split his focus. Lamos moving into Tibzi's base. Only 2 Scorpion tanks and a handful of rocket squads are here for the defense. It might be enough to stop all of this as the Raider Buggies move in and start taking a couple of shots off on these militant squads. Not militant squads, rocket squads. Words are hard. Lamos is looking things looking a little bit more favorably for him inside of this assault, going into TibZ, taking out structure after structure. He could actually manage to turn this around. Maybe he can get a reverse snowball, but it looks like TibZ does not care because he's going to produce mass man spam because he can afford to take these trades, especially when he has the cheaper units. TibZ is all but moved into his secondary natural expansion, which is something Lamos cannot do. Take it back. Now Lamos can do it. He does have a construction yard out and ready to go. Does deploy it probably a little bit sooner, but maybe he was just waiting on his defensive force, maybe expecting TibZ to have some bike and buggy out and ready to go. Just in case if anyone is watching this on YouTube, for context, TibZ is Hyde. I just don't know exactly how he prefers to pronounce his name. So I'm just going to call him TibZ because there's no miscommunication about how to pronounce that. Lamos moving over on the right-hand side of the map, going for what he thinks is maybe a softer target, but that's going to be a lot of laser turrets. That's going to be a hard nut to crack as TibZ begins his assault and prepares his defense over here on the right-hand side. Lamos already losing a good chunk of his attack bikes, which he cannot afford to do, running directly into these units. He should have sent his Raider buggies forward, and he is going to suffer for it. There are still a good number of attack bikes left, but I'm not sure how much it's going to matter as TibZ turns his forces around, going for the defense. I feel like he should have continued the assault. All that's really left is these Raider buggies with no upgrades for them, and they have to run directly into the laser turrets of TibZ. TibZ's defense is looking rather quite nicely. We do have another refinery out here, so we've got another infusion of resources there for Lamos. If Lamos is able to buy some time, he might be able to catch up to TibZ if he can continue poking down his forces and sort of turn his economic disadvantage into an advantage, because TibZ is already like halfway through this. So the further and further the game goes, technically Lamos will have more resources there towards the end. Overall, his economy should be weaker, but if he can keep picking TibZ's forces off, he might end up in a really good spot. Plenty of Scorpion tanks out over here. That seems to be the transition for TibZ, making their way over to, looks like, this secondary natural expansion, trying to stop Lamos from getting not only the blue Tiberium, but also stop Lamos from moving into his secondary natural expansion if he was ready, which right now he is not. Lamos focusing pretty heavily on infrastructure and resources, getting an operations center out, maybe getting an upgrade for these tanks, for these Scorpion tanks, to deal with his opponent's Scorpion tanks. Formations are being set up. TibZ trying to move his way around. Sorry, excuse me. Gonna run into the defender's advantage of Lamos. Lamos moving a couple of those attack bikes and Raider buggies for a better assault, but running into the man spam. TibZ now on a little bit of his back foot of Shredder turrets begin to destroy more and more of his units, and he's not able to group his units, his man spam, and his tanks in the way that he wants. He does take a couple of really good losses. This is what Lamos needs to do in order to continue, in order to get a victory off on his opponent. He's got to play off of that defender's advantage, and he's got to capitalize when and where he can. TibZ moving into his natural expansion. Attack bikes going for the Harvester of TibZ. TibZ focusing his attention on over here. Attack bikes probably going to get taken out by these Scorpion tanks as they continue to reduce, but Lamos is trying his hardest to go probably desperately for that Harvester. Harvester does get taken down along with the majority of the forces there for Lamos. Lamos cannot afford trades like that, even if it is for a Harvester. Maybe if he got 2 or 3 Harvesters, that might have been worth it. Sure, he did delay the expansion, but there's already another refinery out and probably more Harvesters to replace it here soon. Lamos beginning his base crawl over to his opponent's base, putting it a little more on the front line so he can begin his slow march over here. Staggering number of Scorpion tanks with this Dozer upgrade, which means they have a little bit of extra armor there for this push. Things might look quite grim for Lamos, as Lamos has nothing in this sector right now to defend it. He does manage to turn a couple of forces around, maybe seeing what's coming his way, but it might be too little too late. He does move most of the Scorpion tanks in here, and he needs to move them in the protection of the War Factory. He does have a good concave here. I guess there's a... No, there's not a War Factory back there either. He's got to get into that defender's advantage. There's the decoy army there, and TibZ might be in trouble, but TibZ also has a couple of forces over on the left-hand side of the map, marching their way into the MCV of Lamos. If Lamos loses that MCV, it could spell his doom, but I don't think there was enough forces there in order to take that out. Lamos able to push Tibzy back into his natural expansion, and it's turned his defender's advantage into his opponent's defender's advantage, which is not what he wants. He really, really does not want to do these trades, or at least he shouldn't want to do these trades right now. He needs to sit pretty inside of his war factories, get the free repairs, and just continue to absorb some of the damage from Tibzy. Assault beginning in earnest. I think Lamos has lost too many forces there to continue the assault. However, if enough forces get their way out, if enough rocket squads make their way out, they can turn the tide as the back and forward does continue. Lamos really, really needs to not chase this except to maybe get another tank or two. Reaching into the ether, hearing my advice, he does back his way out and continues his defense, which is, I think, his only chance of victory, especially with all of his losses. Tibzy's got to really, really make a big mistake and continue to lose forces, but so far he has not really done that. He's lost a lot of man spam, but that's kind of what those units are for, and he has such an insane amount of Scorpion tanks on both sides of the map. I think he might 2-to-1 Lamos in forces right now. Tibzy posturing to set himself up on both sides, setting up a line so they move in at the same time so they can get the concave as soon as possible. A couple of scouts here for Tibzy. Running into the Scorpion tanks, now knowing that they are on the left-hand side. It looks like Lamos has also split his forces. He doesn't have much of a defender's advantage right here other than the Shredder turret. There's nothing else other than defensive turrets out on the front line there for the defense. However, it could make a difference. Lamos not deciding where he wants to send his forces as Scorpion tanks moving in on the right-hand side as Tibzy backs his way out, keeping the majority of the forces occupied over there, and the old main base for Lamos is being marched upon by the Scorpion tanks. Scorpion tanks have free range, are getting the crush on the Black Hand squads and moving for softer targets, maybe looking for some harvesters to go for because there's nothing to stop them over in this one. Lamos needs to move his harvesters over into that secondary national expansion, but he throws in the towel, giving Tibzy a 0-3 victory. Definitely lost a little bit of steam there for that last one, and apparently we casted an illegal match. Either way, thank you so very much, not only to Chronosphere for sponsoring this tournament, but thank you to all the players who have played so far. And don't forget, if you have lost one, there's still a decent chance that there's going to be another bracket there for you to get redemption and continue on to the tournament and get your hands on some of that prize pool. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in, Commander. I've been your host, Korak. Transmission out.